recording.
Hello friends and welcome back to Ahmonza's channel. I'm Bordo and here we have our gracious host.
My name is Ahmonza, and here we have with me a semi-armor expert, well, more expert than I, Bordo.
Hello friends.
So,
Today we're going to rank armors, right? If I'm not
yep,
mistaken.
that's more or less right. So, for those that don't know, I had a chance contact with the previous commissioner who, he had contacts, they had contacts, I had contacts. We put our contacts together, we had a little schmoozy. Not that kind. But he basically wants to help me create a Morrowind-esque like game based on the setting of the bullshit that I've created, that is the world of Boom, where the universe was
Very
created
interesting
because of a
videos.
headache.
I love world building content and your stuff is pretty great.
Now, one thing in regards to games, and like I'm not sure, Bordo, what kind of games you have played. I played Morrowind. Have you played such
Hmm.
games?
I'm not a big gamer, but I've dabbled.
Well, like of course, whenever you play like hack and slash and that type of thing, the one of the coolest things you can do in the game is like wear armor, and armor, of
Yeah.
course, will protect you from various attacks, magical, physical, or any kind of itical that will may tickle your flesh. These things will protect you, but more than just protect you, they're also a little bit fancy, and you look good while you're
Yes,
dressed
yes,
in them,
yes.
right? You got the drip out like
They
here.
look great. They look great, and
Yeah.
they're defensive, and they serve as the status and symbol. And um, I think modern culture, and especially modern masculine fashion, lacks the creativity and artistry that old armor makers used to put into it.
Well,
That's why I love it, because with my archetype of a guy, there's not a lot of um, ways to express our masculinity, and armor is one of the core of the masculine ways to express yourself.
well,
Also, feminine. There are
yeah.
a lot of
Yeah,
beautiful
don't worry
armor
about that.
for ladies as well.
But don't but think about it. You're going
Yeah,
into battle. These battles will be big and grand, and more often than not recorded in history for all of time, long after you're dead. So if you're going to
yeah.
go to battle and you're going to do cool shit like Guts the Iron Hand, where you're fisting
Yes,
people
I
with
love
your
it.
with
I
your,
have basically the same haircut as him.
yeah, I might be his descendant. Who knows? But
Oh well.
but you go into battle, do the crazy type of shit he did, and he's famous, of course, for his armored
Yes.
arm, of course. But if you're going into the battle and someone's going to see you, would you rather see some poorly dressed, ill-competent fool that looks like a joke, or you want to go in looking real scary like, or really, really cool? You go in, you slay
Intimidation
fools, they go,
factor is really important. Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
And of course, how do you want to show up in the manuscripts and the
Oh yeah.
tapestry?
Oh, he
When they
just wore
paint your
generic
victory or
chainmail,
your defeat.
nothing special. Nah, he wore a tapestry of gold and horns, and he had many, many dragons about his form. I don't know. I went like a.
Yes, of course, like beauty of the armor is important, but what armor is defined is how it protects you, the main
Exactly,
function of it.
exactly, and to this effect, in the game design as it is, and this kind of goes with the War Hunt setting to some extent. I've designed many of these armors based on some historical pieces that I've seen, but also like a hodgepodge of like some basic fantasy stuff, but made in a way that seems more or less practical. And
As a lover of historical armor, I really appreciate your art because you go deeper than a lot of fantasy and especially historical um, armor reenactors and designers in gaming. Because one of the reasons I created my channel and showing different types of armor is that, especially in Western media, a lot of the types and styles of armor that is close to my heart is not really represented. And looking into your art, a lot of them are well represented. So I really appreciate that.
I appreciate that you've noticed such things. Like, there's always like a great deal of focus on like Gothic plate or like
Yeah,
Nordic designs, and that's great. You know, lot
I
of good
do love
aesthetics
them. We
there.
love them.
A lot of good aesthetics there. But I feel as though that the fertile crescent of the world, all the way all the way from like Euro Asia, all the way down to Africa and everything in between. There's a great deal and great wealth of history and armors there that
Yeah.
are just neglected. You don't see them in games or nothing. Like, when was the last time had you seen a movie where there was a hero and or villain dressed in full Berhet armor? I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, but Berhet armor. You know, the
Yes, yes.
individual plates.
Actually, uh, as someone who like has a little bit of details from my previous the armor, it's the Behret, or I don't
It's like
I call it
genuinely like Ottoman or North African style of
yes, yes,
armor.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's plate and mail. I just usually call it uh,
Yeah,
plate and mail. You
and the
can see
plates
like
are like
there,
put like one over the other like scales, so it's like a fusion
yeah,
of
like
chainmail and
there are
scale mail.
multiple styles. There is like
Yeah,
few mail in between, and there is like overlapping. Unfortunately, I don't have them right. Is the basic principle like you have metal, as you can see, with mail combination, and there are different styles of it. There's the I generally call them plate and mail.
yeah,
Uh,
like
Barehead armor is one of the variations of it.
it's
Actually,
very
I
thin
would recommend the
plates.
Eastern European Soviet Union era movie, Ilya Muromets, where you can actually see someone. It's like 1956 production, but it has. I think it's translated as Knight and the Dragon. It's in American. I really don't like the American
I think I've
translation,
watched
but
your review of such a film. Is there like a dragon, like Mongols are coming from
yeah,
the
three-headed
hills?
dragon. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. The Zmei Garinich. It's actually really interesting Slavic folk there. I'm not Slavic, but I appreciate their mythology. And it has the knight Ilya Muromets has the plate and mail armor. It's one of the rare actual depictions of the Behet armor.
Mm. Yeah, you don't see that
But
too
it's
often.
almost impossible to see in Western media.
Yeah, you don't see that too often. And like,
Yeah, and not just the plate and mail. Actually, like lamellar. I don't have the full plate. Like lamellar interlocking plate armor, or like anything that is like Jaoshan. This is like four plate, like 4 meters armor, which is like one mirror here, the other here, and the back part unfortunately isn't finished. Like work in production. There are many interesting different styles of armor all around the world, especially like as you said, the Fertile Crescent and the Mediterranean world that I like to talk about, where Europe, Middle East, and Africa, especially, was connected by the Roman and the Persian worlds, and later Ottoman as well. So this interesting world exists, but most of the fantasy media, most of the Western historical films only pull from Western Europe,
yeah,
and rarely
it's
sometimes
usually
maybe
either
home.
like Celtic, and the Celtic is a bit of a stretch. You don't see too many of
Yeah,
that. But
has to
it's
be
like
Celtic.
either Norse mythology or like kind of like a Christian mythology. Like it's like for instance Saint George and the Dragon, right? Or
Saint George, I made a video about it. Please, please watch it.
I
It's
have it.
more.
I
It's
have it in
in
my watch list.
Anatolian, Middle Eastern mythology. Actually, like it's Anatolian folklore,
Mm.
popularizing Europe after the Crusades. So
Yeah, there's
even
also
Saint George, cornerstone of English folk belief, is actually part of Anatolian and Caucasian and Middle Eastern folklore.
mm, there's also a great deal of old pagan stories as well, and usually from like the Celts and like the central Europe, like Germany and like a little bit of France.
The most east Western media goes is maybe Greek age mythological
Y-
films
Yeah,
or
like
animations or movies. Like
everybody loves them
even then,
gods.
of course, a British actor must play the Greek or a Roman general, and
If if I had a
never
nickel,
ever would you see an actual Greek or a Roman person depicted in a such a movie.
if I had a nickel for every time Julius Caesar was played by an actor with a full British accent, I would have a lot of nickels. So I'd probably have enough to get maybe a good sized pizza.
Caesar pizza, right?
A Caesar's pizza, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's start in the game that I'm planning. The way we're going to go about the fence is there are like 3 kinds of conditions that you can get in terms of like how you might get hurt by your enemies. I mean beyond magic and poison and all that other rubbish. Because like most of the time it's going to be hack and slash. You're not going to have time to cast spells while someone's stabbing at you. So the 3 that we have in mind is laceration, perforation, and fracture.
I'm going to depict laceration with the slashing, right?
I also have a bit of laceration and perforation on my boy.
Gotcha. This is Caucasian saber. Alright, laceration would be slashing. And what's the other one?
There was a perforation, which was like stabbing, and then there's
Stabbing would be
the point, like spears, arrows, and things that stab. Then this ain't a hammer, but then we have also fracture, in which you use blunt force.
Is bludgeoning, right? How do you call it?
I called it the state called fracture.
Fracture, sure, yes. Interesting. What to do?
Wife says hi.
Verbiage, terms. I like it. All right.
But so like obviously these are tools and different methods of which they can hurt you. Obviously, armors have been designed over and over again, sometimes re-editing on old ideas, reinventing new ones, or bringing some old ideas back. This has happened all the way from the Bronze Age and forward, and sometimes just recreated in the more recent times.
Yes.
But
Bronze Age had plate armor. I'm trying to rebuild a Bronze Age plate armor right here. And it took maybe 2,000 or 1,500 years to actually return to full musculat and the full plate armor. And that took such a long time to reinvent and rediscover such technology.
Yeah, war has a tendency to erase things. Like, for instance, the Crusades. Like, the whole library of Babylon, fucking destroyed. Gone forever! Who knows?
Many such cases.
And like in Africa, with the Western tribes, or like in like Timbuktu and such places, where when I guess you could say Western powers came, rather that be Dutch, English, or Spanish, it didn't really matter. Anytime they came, especially with the British, they would come and they go, "Oh, is this the whole history of your country's people? Put it on clay tablets and then mounted on a wall in a very particular order? We're gonna steal some of this shit."
Randomly plucking
and break some. They're like, oh, was that the Third Crusade of like age of 1973? Okay, it's gone now. Destroyed.
Who cares? It's not mine, right?
Yeah. We're still they're still waiting on those tablets.
Oh, they'll be waiting.
They'll be waiting.
Until they pick them by themselves, they'll be waiting for a long time.
I seen the funniest video of a Nigerian walking into the British Museum, and he recognizes a piece of his history in the museum, and he became so enraged. He's like, I'm taking it home. He breaks the glass and picks it off its stand and starts to walk out the museum.
It's illegal. You cannot steal something back. You already
It's
stole.
this is not stealing, it's
All right.
reappropriation. Okay, but
All right. Let's get
so
back to the
armors.
topic and actually
Yeah.
do the topic of the video. Let's rank the armors.
All right. So the first we have here is I'm going to butcher the
Yeah.
pronunciation, but Behret armor, which is a combination of chainmail and
Yes.
small, like
Like that.
plates layered on top of each other like scales in a very particular way. Now
Yes, I
we're going
have
to
one.
do.
Unfortunately, this is the area where I craft things. I don't have any finished pieces right here, but let's talk about it. Okay, this type of armor I think is. Oh, sorry. Okay, okay, everything is stable. This type of armor is one of my favorites because it combines functionality with the ability to move around. Like one of the stereotypes of plate armor is that you have a hard time moving around. It's not true, especially if it's high quality made and fitted to your body, but it still limits somewhat. This provides enough mobility and enough protection, especially it's double layered and is combined together by mail, which makes it much difficult to actually tear and rip through. So I would say this would be close to S tier, maybe eight. I can't decide if it's S tier
Well,
or
we,
A
we,
tier.
we can move it back and forth depending before we like get to the end of it. So this
All right,
we're
in
just
fact,
doing
it's really
general
much better than
defense.
chainmail because it's like combination of plate and chain. Not as great as full plate armor, but much better than chainmail. So
Hmm.
I would, for now, let's put it in good. Maybe we could how dragon proof. Is it dragon proof?
I'm
It
just
could
joking.
be
I'm just
if
joking,
it's
but
made
I'm
from
saying
dragon.
that this will save your life almost every time.
Maybe let's put it in dragon proof.
Dragon proof. Okay. So like the way I'm just
Because
going.
you need to be a really powerful dragon to pierce through the ring and plates that hold it together,
Yeah.
and maybe it gives you much easier time to fix some of the broken plates after you fight a dragon.
Yeah.
Hopefully, surviving.
Repairability. That
Yeah,
access to repair.
that's a really important part.
Very
Yes,
important. Something that we don't do with modern
functionality
cars.
is as important as practicality. Like one thing is that is great on you, but maybe you're a king and you're trying to fit the whole army.
Ooh.
Maybe a full plate armor for each soldier might not be as realistic, but this type of armor that's made of smaller plates is much easier to mass produce. So it's beneficial as a protective armor and great for a king trying to fit a whole crusade to slay a dragon.
Mm,
It's budget friendly and highly protective.
yeah.
Let's say that.
Do we want to say anything about the style? Is good. I mean, I'm pretty sure these ankle cuffs that like they're too short. They don't do shit.
No, no, it's the style is really interesting. It's a combination of different cultural influences. I would put it more Persian and maybe even Indian influences on here.
Yeah, I kind of took the helm design from how they would do like boar helms, and they would plate
Yeah,
it up, and I did it in a similar way, but instead of like, of course, instead of bone, it's plate, so it would go on that way. But the helm from the visor down is the chainmail, and of course the Berheret style of scaling. And it's going down from there. Now the shoulders, I think I have somewhere in here. Let me see. Nope, not that. Oh, I just
let's
passed
see
it.
you to a lot of
So if we can see
cool
here, without that leather covering, we see that it goes all the way up to the collar and onto the arms itself, and then so on.
If I'm
But
not mistaken, one of the first people to use it were the Moguls who conquered. They were Turkic and Mongolic people who conquered India and became ruling class for some time, and
That's
that was the type of armor they used.
That's part of the reason why I gave it the leather shoulders. Now, obviously, cultures are not going to be 1-to-1 in the world of Boom. There's elves, there's
Yes,
dwarves, there's orcs and such. But
but
I
it's always interesting to take historical armor as inspiration.
oh yeah, um, our only lore explanation as to why there's so many armors in such a like style of armors in such a tightly knit place is something I'm going to allude to in another video called the Age of Chaos, and it is called as
Mm.
such because in this Age of Chaos it was a span of like 200 years, and in that 200 years, 100 not one, not two, not three, 100 empires would go back
Right.
and forth across the world, conquering each other, rising and falling at the at rapid speeds. and
That's
so
crazy. That's
and
crazy.
so when they come to the middle of the world, all their shit ended up there. And next thing you know, you have mercs, just kind of grabbing stuff like it's at a garage sale. They're like, I have a little bit of this and a little bit of that. They have no idea where these things come from, but they're just like, mine. So the Age of
Very
Chaos.
interesting, and 100 empires at the same time. That's crazy, Royale.
Yeah,
Even crazy for a Georgian.
none of them learn
He
their
had to face
lessons.
4 or 5 empires at the same time, but 100, that's
In
insane.
the span of 200 years.
Yes, yes, yes.
But you
All
can
right,
do a lot with
that's
fantasy.
S
So
tier. I would say it's S tier. One of the best armors you could have in the uh, Middle East slash India. Similar styles of armor spread all over. You could see in Poland, and you can see in Japan, and you could see in North Africa. And but unfortunately, this type of armor didn't spread beyond Poland into Western Europe. It's Central Europe and the East. It's really popular, but uh, somehow, for some reason, well, reason is that plate armor existed in Western Europe,
yeah,
and this type of armor wasn't uh, really popular. But I think it's up there, maybe not as great as protecting you as plate armor, but much cheaper with almost the same results.
it might be better in different resolves. Like for
Yeah, the
instance,
mixing of the
yeah,
different parts. Yes,
yeah, it might like in terms of like mobility because mobility is very important. But for now, we're
yes, yes.
just ranking general defense. We haven't even touched perforation, laceration, or crushing powers. So we'll do that later, and we'll go through it very quickly. So the
Sure.
next one we have is brigandine. That's where you have
Oh, brigandine!
and that
Why
you
not
might have
mention
some of
it?
this around.
I love brigandine. It's my one of my favorite styles of armor. Unfortunately, it wasn't really popular in the part of the world that I'm from, and it's one of the more I would say working, not working class, but like soldiers' armor. Not a nobility also had it. The kings and the princes also had it, but this is like typical mercenary soldier armor that is protective and much easier to construct than like plate armor. That is more popular in Western Europe and Central Europe. It's brigandine comes from Burgundian territory, old French kingdom,
It's probably
where
also
they
a
were
lot.
really rich, and they would make it out of really fine silks and really fine leathers and cloths and velvets.
So there's
So
a
the
lot of
nobility would
opportunity for
usually
fashion,
what?
right? So there's like a lot of
Yes,
opportunity
it
for
was a
fashion.
fashion accessory through and through, and nobility would focus on decorating the cloth, the fabric covering the metals, and it was really fancy with a lot of embroidery, a lot of decoration. So it's one of the most stylish types of armor that I really like, and also one of the more simpler to construct, especially if you're a beginner blacksmith. You're basically nailing bunch of plates onto a cloth, maybe leather, maybe velvet or different thick. Especially, it has to be thick material so it
It can
doesn't
hold.
rip easily.
Yeah.
It has a big downside, as you would realize, going into a battle with a cloth covering. It every slash, every tear, every arrow, maybe the plates underneath stop them, but the cloth covering, the leather covering, gets ripped and teared and disheveled quite quickly. So one of the difficult parts of the brigandine armor is maintaining it, because if it gets enough tears in the cloth covering, you need to take the whole plates off and reattach to another cloth. So maybe not as often, but if you're a career archer, career soldier, career pikeman, and you have one suit of armor, you have to have separate expenses to constantly maintain this thing.
Yeah.
It's better than most armors at the period, especially because it's overlapping. It has protective qualities, especially if you're mass producing it. It's great for that purpose if you're trying to fit many soldiers with a lot of protective qualities, and if you're a rich nobleman and you want to show off your wealth, you can get high quality fabrics out of silks, a lot of decorative designs on your cloth covering. But again, it's more of an expensive on maintaining it, because every slash, every pierce, every damage that the
Yeah.
armor takes, that plate would usually, for example, like it would glance off and maybe leave a little bit of a scar, a little bit of a
Especially in
scratch,
those areas, the
because
splints.
right when you have can metal being covered by leather, you could see like a scratch would
Yeah.
easily show up on the leather.
It's probably
Maybe
also
not,
the
not a full
case.
tear, but you can see it's got
Yeah.
a little tear, right? So maybe it's not enough to damage you on the inside, so armor is doing its job, but the leather cloth covering would eventually get damaged, so it's a high maintenance armor.
All right. So
So
where
I
would you?
would put it on A tier. It's really protective, but a lot of maintenance.
So good.
It's good.
It's
It's
good.
good, but you are like your pay 20% might go into repairing it.
Hmm. All right. So our next one is chainmail.
Of
Now,
course,
now,
classic chainmail.
now I have three
That's
different varieties here. There's also like actually four, no, five, I guess. So
no,
like,
this is the full covering chainmail.
yeah,
That's more popular in the Middle Ages Europe, especially Western Europe. Usually, what you see in Eastern Europe and Middle East is going on the sleeves
just at the
and
sleeves.
having like bracers covering you. Unfortunately, again, demonstrations like something like this and plate and the male would be, and the rest of the body would be male. So it's one of the number one classics. I have little chain washers made here. The plates might be flattened to be about this size, depending on the style, depending on the variant. Rings of the plates usually were nailed together, riveted together, and then with a hammer flattened. So it covered a larger territory. Um, it's classic from the Roman period up to even the 20th century. In Georgia, I've talked about this before. Mountain warriors came down to fight in World War One in full chainmail and plate mail armor. So it was being used up until the 20th century. So it's great. It's time consuming but easy to construct.
Oh yeah,
A,
I've
simple
like
blacksmith
even
can
just
make it.
doing this little bit, and it's out of the thinnest material.
Yeah.
This was tedious as hell. It was
Yes,
tedious as hell.
it's
It takes forever,
mind-bogglingly tedious to make it,
and you know it
but you
makes.
can make it.
Yeah, you can make it, but it takes for God like
Yes,
let.
especially if you're riveting,
Yeah,
nailing each ring. Imagine wanting to make the rings and spring and cut them up, and I've made a whole tutorial how to make it. But nailing them shut, it usually took a single person. It would take about a year to make a full. chainmail, especially with the sleeves and with the coif and with the all the bits and pieces to be covered. It would take maybe more than a year. But usually, a whole smithery work done it maybe like 5 to 10 people. So it could produce maybe a few a month, like not a few, one or two a month, if it's like enough people working on it.
Yeah.
Here in Georgia, there's legends that it was women's responsibility to actually make the male armor because
Mm.
usually it was really expensive, and most soldiers, especially the grunts, couldn't afford it. So you need to be wealthy enough to afford the male armor. But
I can't
in the
afford this
mountains of
chainmail.
Caucasus, we have a lot of even peasants and poor soldiers having full male armor because it was warrior culture, and even like families made their own armor. So it's really expensive if you don't have a warrior culture dedicated and making mail. It's really hard to make. It's tedious, not hard. It's tedious to
Very
make.
tedious. It's like fletching arrows. You know, you have to take that very
I would
thin.
rather fletch arrows,
Fletching arrows, I feel like
It's
would be a lot easier than like
yes, yes, because
weaving
it's so
mail.
like thousands and tens of thousands of rings
Ugh.
individually nailed or maybe welded in some sort of way, and it's but what the defines mail is that it's really protective, but really protective for slashing. It's almost impossible to cut through. It has some ability to stop the bludgeoning, but especially if the weapon is made for piercing, it's really
It's
easy
going
to
through.
pierce.
Yeah.
If you don't have thick enough padding, or maybe have leather underneath or on top of it that has some ability to stop piercing, you're basically not defenseless, but you're easy target for botkin arrows that are really thin nail arrowheads that are specially designed to go through mail rings. You're really under a lot of threats from spearheads that are really pointy, and especially swords and daggers that are designed for piercing through mail. So
Yeah. Not to mention,
I'm going
there's
to
like
be
a force of
controversial
wedging, right?
here.
There's like
What?
there's like a force of wedging. So let's say that
Yes.
you get with a like a leaf bladed shape stabbing, right?
Yeah.
Depending on the strength of the individual ring, and an individual ring by itself may not have what it takes. So
Yeah.
say you get stabbed and the person put tremendous force behind the stab. The ring might get split, and as it gets split, it might tear the joining of other rings around it.
Yes. Yes.
So the stabbing might,
And
depending, would be
even if it
worse.
doesn't tear, even if it doesn't tear, the
Yeah.
fact that you have, let's say, it's a solid ring. Sometimes they would actually, like these washers, in the Middle East especially, they would actually make two different types of rings. The solid rings that are sometimes even cast as rings, and joining rings that are smaller and riveted later. So if it got into a solid ring, I don't think it might break. But imagine, even if it doesn't break the ring binding, getting through this much, I
That
don't know,
that
this much
that's
into
enough to
your flesh.
make you stop.
Maybe your gambazon stops it, but you are still getting stabbed. You are still bleeding, and you are still taking piercing damage. Maybe not enough to kill you, but I don't know,
Uh,
having
enough to make you go
multiple,
ah.
yeah, having multiple stab wounds isn't comfortable. So I'm gonna say something controversial, and I'm gonna say that male is B tier.
Male is B tier. Oh, B tier.
It B tier.
B tier. So
It's good, but it has glaring weakness against piercing.
all right. So for I guess in that way, what about just the chainmail? That's just the coif to the chest. Where would you put that?
I would put that in B tier. Maybe like full male would be A tier. Let's say like the one with the shoulders, like the one I would put it in B tier, but the other one in A tier. I think you're mixing up the designs.
Okay, so like this one, all right. Like this one's not in the tier list. This is just an example for a variation. But we
Oh,
have
okay, okay,
so we
okay.
have this one.
Let's put this one, the short-sleeved one, in B tier, and I would put the long-sleeved one that covers all the part of the body in A tier. But it's controversial. Some people will be really mad at
Yeah, I know that
about this, but
for like a lot of Norse warriors and Vikings and such, they relied heavily on like chainmail, at least the rich ones, and so like yeah,
yeah.
my ancestors
It's
are gonna be looking
great.
at me
It's
mean.
great. It's practical. It was used in almost every culture in the Eurasian continent that had access to mail. But again, it's really tedious to make, and it's has glaring weakness against piercing.
Mm.
But if you had like plates, if you had like thicker, one of the things I wanted to show off. All right, here are
Oh,
my
oh,
little bag of different types of male weaves. That's one of the okay. Maybe I'm stretching the video length,
hey,
but there are different styles of weaving. For example, this is one
this
before, but
this
you'll
style
get
is most
smaller
familiar to
weave.
me. Yeah.
So this type of male would be lighter, but easily could be broken. Like this is much larger rings, as you can see. This is, I think, 1 in 6,
Mm.
2 in 6. As you can see, it would be much more difficult to pierce through, but it's much heavier than regular mail
Yeah.
because it has a thicker weave.
And
Okay,
what about
this is
that
another
small one there?
example
Oh,
of thicker weave. As you can see, it's like called the double mail. As it has. Okay, I really want to show the pattern. I don't know if it's picking up. It's really thick weave. Something like a piercing weapon would have a much harder time going through it, going through the rings.
with
But it would become much heavier to wear something like this.
that would
You
be
could again
cumbersome.
go even
Yeah.
thinner with the rings, but then it becomes much more expensive and much more time consuming. So again, I made a little mess here, but
So like a
there are
higher
many different
quality.
styles of weaves, the size of rings, different patterns of combining larger and smaller rings. But the idea is that mail is one of the more versatile styles of armor that has been popular all over the world with a glaring weakness against piercing.
Yeah. But to that end, there is a style of chainmail that we use today in the modern day. If you go to places
Mm.
like Florida or California where they do shark studies, they have a diving suit that goes all the way from the
Mm.
head to the toe, and it's made out of very teeny tiny, like say, let me get some wire here or something like that. Like let's say the rings are like they are probably made out of wire at least this small.
Mm.
You could barely see that, but it
Yeah.
looks like an iron.
Something like this, maybe, or maybe more like this,
It would be more
and
like
maybe it's
that.
a tie made of
Yeah, it would be more like that, but the rings would be two
even
times
smaller, right?
smaller. Yeah, 2 times smaller.
Yeah.
And it was used to help divers that were studying the sharks from getting bit, because like a
Yeah,
shark's
similar.
a shark's tooth is
Yeah.
very wide. It's not very. I
Mm.
mean, unless we're talking about certain kinds of sharks. Some sharks they have needle teeth, but like typical
Ooh.
sharks, like a great white, very triangular shaped teeth. It's not going through that very fine mail.
Yes, exactly. So you could make many different interesting designs. Again, to your point, today in England and some parts of Europe where they're not as blessed as Americans with a lot of pew pews. So
Mm.
most of the conflict takes place with similar devices.
Don't
So
misunderstand. We stab each other here
basically,
too.
male armored knights, especially in the special forces and police, kind of returned to Europe. So it's basically still in use, as you said, as shark-proof armor or even stab-proof armor. But I would say it still pales in comparison to a lot of armors that is plated or have many other design elements that helps them to be proof against piercing and bludgeoning, because it's great against slashing. It's almost impervious, but piercing and bludgeoning, especially piercing, mail is weak to. So I would controversially say B tier.
Okay. Now I did have this one here, and we have
This
a.
is the way a lot of people thought. Maybe let's add plate, maybe let's add leather, something to cover male's weakness of piercing. So now it becomes A tier.
This
When you
one.
add little bit of protection,
So this one's A
it
tier.
becomes better.
So this one's A tier then. Okay.
This would be in my mind covering up the glare and weakness of male by adding plate, adding leather. That negates the main weakness against piercing. Of course, it doesn't fully protect, but gambeson underneath, plate and leather over top of the male, that kind of balances the weakness of male.
Now, I want to put this very clear so that it's understood. In this game that we are making, all of these armors. Now, I just designed them as suits just for the sake of simplicity. Because if I did this as individuals, we'd be here forever. But technically speaking, you can build these armors in several different pieces. Like for instance, I have divided them in as such. You have helm, you have a torso piece, you have left and right arms, right, left, and right forearms, because you might wear something differently depending on what is your offensive side. Then you have like leggings all the way from the hips to the knees, and then shins, of course. But on top of that, we also have left and right pauldrons. So I think that's quite a bit. It's like maybe like 13 or 12 pieces so far.
That's very detailed. I appreciate going
A
into such detail. Yes.
a chest overlay, so an armor may take up this place. So in the visual description right here, we see he's wearing a chain shirt, and he's wearing a like as you say a torso like circular plate around his chest. So this particular thing, along
Something
with
like
the
this, right?
yeah, something like that. Like you see it a
I'm
lot in a
still
lot of
working, and it's going to be a little bit like similar to you.
yeah.
It's the brass, but it's going to be domed and designed. Like that's the principle. Chest protection
We've seen
plates
a
like
lot of it in
were
Bronze
used
Age
since
stuff.
the Bronze Age and
Yeah.
maybe even before.
And from what I understand, during the Crusades, a great deal of Saracen soldiers and whatnot, or like warriors of Arabic make, would also have like maybe chainmail or like disc plates in this fashion.
Yes, yes.
Now, just so it's known, this little disc plate, it's optional. You could take it off. So you can wear the chain and then put this on, or put something else on.
Accurate. Like many cultures used to wear a separate chest the plate piece.
Yeah. So we have
Since the Bronze Age and even especially in the medieval times as well.
yeah. So we have a chest plate, and then you also have greaves going down the legs as well. I mean, not greaves, but like an overlay of the greaves. So like, let's say you have like an iron skirt, if you will.
Sure, yes.
Yeah, so you have lots of options for customization. If you know anything like Marwin, it's a little bit more than that. So you can have you can fine tune your armors to whatever style or weight class you want.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Because usually the game is like either you are this
one set of armor,
male, this. But I want to combine little bit of details because male has these benefits and plate has these benefits. Maybe I want to mix and match.
Oh yeah. So this one was going to A tier. Now you already put this one.
Is going to A tier.
This one's also an A tier.
Okay.
Yeah.
This, if I'm not mistaken, taken from Indian Coat of Thousand Nails, right?
Yes, I guess it's like a huge leather talbot, if you will. Like it is an Indian style, if I'm not mistaken, and it's basically imagine like a coat that is designed in the fashion of brigandine, because there are steel plates underneath all of those rivets, if I'm not mistaken.
Depending on the style.
Depending on the style, yes, because sometimes it's just cloth. Sometimes it's just cloth.
One was that I was mentioning is actually really interesting style of armor that we would call riveted or what's like a studded leather armor. Studded leather armor didn't really exist. It, as you said, like underneath the leather are plates actually nailed together. But in this variation, if like if I'm understanding it, if it's coat of thousand nails, it's actually uh, thick gambeson with many layers of silk nailed together with a lot of tiny nails.
So the
So
nails
rather than
just
stone,
hold
because it's much
the layers
difficult to
close
stone,
together.
yes, because nailed together, and the plates are actually on the weak points that needs the most protection. So like chest, heart, kidneys, and the liver and the leg pieces. So it's like uh, elevated form of a gambeson. But what you're describing is more Eastern style of brigandine, right?
I guess,
If I'm
like,
not
I mean,
mistaken.
I guess I kind of went after, like, my knowledge on this is very hazy. So, like, I looked at it. It's not like they cut the armor open for me to see how it is on the inside. So I can
Yeah.
only go off of what I see, and it looks as though parts of the leather or the cloth of these talberts are very rigid. So, like, around the shoulders, they're very rigid. They don't necessarily bend as well. So, like, around the shoulder,
There are
they're
different
flexible.
styles. That's the thing. That's
Yeah.
the thing. It's really difficult to actually get the sense of the armor, especially just looking at it on the display, because this exact style underneath could be plated, it could just be padded, it could be leather, it could be cloth, it could be silk, it could be anything, because the design that is like flowing design is really great, especially in hot climates where you have more arid, more flowing bits that doesn't tie to your body, and like imagine being in the Middle East or South Asia with leather tied to your body tightly. So it's
Mm.
much better to leave it more arid. So this type of armor, as you described, would be brigandine. So brigandine
It
is
doesn't have
again
to be
like
that. I've only have what I see on the surface.
so.
Yeah.
If if this is, for example, what I've mentioned, a coat of thousand nails, it's hard to say because, of course,
With the
plate
chainmail
armor is
underneath.
what.
With the chainmail underneath.
With the chain, okay, with the chainmail underneath, okay, it's if you're saying there's chainmail underneath and a leather studded leather and plated armor, that's, I would say, even S tier, low S tier, because leather has the property of it's easier to cut, but it's much hard. Even a thin piece of leather, it's hard to pierce. So combining leather and bits of plate and mail underneath, that gives you like trifecta of protective qualities. So this combination, as a combination armor, would be S tier,
Mm. So it's
but
like
lower in the
it
list.
covers all three defenses, slashing.
Yes,
Well, maybe not bludgeoning.
I would say adding plates there, like those are the main points that some of the mace would try to hit you. You know, mace and the hammer isn't an accurate weapon, so they might go into center of body, what's the bloody the bones underneath the chest,
Ribs.
the ribs. Sorry, uh, ribs. Maybe go into your shoulder, maybe
Ooh.
go into your legs. So having these centralized metal pieces actually would be beneficial to disperse the damage
Mm.
brought on by bludgeoning weapons. So I would say this type of combination armor with leather plates and mail, plates dispersed in enough places that it does the benefit of protecting the bludgeoning. Leather is dispersed enough to protect from piercing, and mail is underneath to protect against slashing, and it gives you like a perfect armor sandwich.
So I guess in that way, like even if it can't get everything, it's sort of
Yes,
like jack
each
of all
piece does its
trades.
own duty, and together creates a such a combination that protects from most types of damages. It's
Mm.
not, of course, plate armor or Bactar armor, but it does its work by combining so many beneficial parts.
Hmm. All right. So I guess you said it was like lower S or.
High A or lower S tier. I'm still, let's say S tier to be controversial and to get the comments going. Share your
Oh,
opinions in the comments.
they're gonna be mad.
Am
They're
I
like, oh,
being
the
too
Georgian. Look where he
prejudiced
puts the
against male?
eastern
Am I?
armors, and look where he puts the northern armors.
So I believe combining different styles of armor and different materials is the best way to protect yourself. Rather than
Yeah, you
having
cover your
one type
bases.
of armor that does everything, I think combination styles of armor is the most beneficial.
Yeah. All right. Now let's take a look at
Right.
the next one. So this is another chain set, but this is closer to what
Yes.
you showed earlier, where it's the
Yes.
plates
Yes.
shown like sewn together on the chainmail. Yes, that kind.
Yes, I have a full set of it. It's called uh, Kalinadar or Kalandar. It's more Eastern European knights armor, and I would okay. I'm really partial to it because this is my favorite style of armor because it's associated to Eastern European knight in my imagination, and but it's not as protective as the Bechtel armor with
Mm,
the interlocking plates.
right.
That's the minus of it. But
It would
because
probably
the
be easier
plates
to
are
move in though,
separated with
right?
nail, it is much more flexible.
Mm. So it probably have a
So
lot more mobility.
yeah, it gives you much more mobility. That's why I always wear it because it's protective. It's full of plates that can protect you, and it gives you enough mobility. But again, weakness of nail is that piercing attacks go through. So the joints. Where's my piercing? Here you can see the little joints of the plates can be pierced through. So when you're slashing and stabbing, maybe a slash can actually get caught up into the rings.
Mm.
So again, it's great. It's my personal favorite and one I would prefer to wear in battle because it gives me enough mobility, it gives me enough protection, but it's not as protective as overlapping plates combined with a male would be. So this would be number one in A tier.
Number one and A tier. Okay. Ooh,
So
that's another thing. I
again, I'm
haven't been
showing that
organizing
I'm
it.
not too partial. My
Yeah.
favorite armor it's not in S tier.
Mm. Well, like it. Hey, you can't win them all, but sometimes style counts for something. Although
Yeah.
you know what's funny about this particular style of chainmail? You know where I first saw it?
Hmm.
I think I was maybe like a teenager, like 13, 12, something like that. And the game Oblivion came out. Now they did a remaster not too long ago. And
Oblivion.
Oblivion, yes. It's an
Hmm.
Elder Scrolls game.
Yeah, I've
So
heard about it, but I've never had a good enough computer to play a
to
lot
run
of
it,
games.
yeah.
So,
Well, in that case, I suggest you run Morrowind. Morrowind is a very
hmm.
simple game, graphically speaking, and unlike the sequels that come after it, it has a lot more depth. Like you can layer armors and do all these different kinds of things and different skills. But that's me. I'm going to stop selling Morrowind here for a moment.
Hmm.
I originally saw this kind of armor with Oblivion, and it was a one kind of like a male shirt. The whole thing was just called male armor in the game, and it had these plates running down the sides of the inseam, and it was kind of running down the chest. Now, here's the funny thing. Now, in Morrowind, they sort armors in three categories, right? Heavy, medium, and light. With light being the easiest to move around in. But when it came to its sequel, Oblivion, when that came out, and they had they had to transfer some of these armors from the older game to the newer game, and since it was higher graphic fidelity, and this is true for all its sequels, every bit of I guess you could say character progression or character detail, the level of detail in terms of mechanical options goes down. Like,
Mm.
for instance, in a Morrowind, you would have like I don't know, like 12 or 16 armor slots to use, and in Oblivion it was closer to 10, and Skyrim it's closer to 8. So like as the games progressed, they became more simple and simpler and simpler. And so by the time we got to Oblivion, they sorted armors in only two categories. They got rid of medium armor and they just have heavy and
Mm.
light. And guess where they put this
That's
armor in?
unfortunate because I would say there are more in between heavy and light. There are like somewhat heavy, really heavy, not as heavy.
Yeah, but
Because
guess where
depends on
this
the
kind of
person wearing it.
guess where this kind of armor sits? Is it heavy or light?
This is logically heavy armor because it's plate
Nope.
and mail.
In Oblivion, you have a full set of chainmail from the neck all the way to your ankles, and it's considered light armor.
Ay, ay, ay. Mail is actually heavier than plate
Oh
because
yes, I
mail
know.
is overlapping
And get
metal
this,
rings.
get this. They have steel plate armor in the game. Guess how that is managed?
I don't know, heavy?
Yes. So the
Yep.
chainmail is lighter than the plate armor. And the plate armor is like
Brigandine
high
armor
gothic
is
with the
lighter than
huge
like not
pauldrons.
just brigandine, the plate and mail armor is
Yes.
lighter than the mail armor that covers the same area because the plates are thinner. Like rings, I made rings from 2 millimeter thick metal, and the plates from 1 millimeter thick metal. So the plates are overlapping, and it's thicker metal, and it's actually heavier than plate armor or plated mail.
Mm.
So it makes like reverse logic, you know?
Yeah. Like the first crime was trying to simplify the gameplay to begin with. They try to simplify the gameplay
Mm.
so that it is has a wider appeal or it's easier to understand or pick up as you play. I hate that shit.
Yeah.
So, all right.
I need to
Now,
get into more video games.
yeah,
I'm a noob on a lot of things. Only game I plays Minecraft and Dwarf. So what's
Dwarf
the
Fortress, right?
Deep Rock Galactic?
Oh,
Yeah.
Deep Rock Galactic? Ah, I've played both those games. Although I love to do this method of building in Minecraft, which I call the how do you say? I call it the Moria method. I do
Mm.
it in survival mode, where I go into the underground, and if I want to make a grand hall like you see in Moria with a huge
Yeah.
pillars, I would dig from the top of the room, design the very tops of the pillars, make sure I get all of it done, then dig the next layer, and then so on and so forth, and keep digging down, down, and down. And any bit of material I
Oh
take from
no,
that,
governmental.
yeah, if I dig too deep. But any
Yeah.
material I
Be
take,
careful. Be careful. Either you fall into lava or find a Balrog.
oh, I've done that. So what I ended up doing is like put a bunch of iron golems down there. I'll have to show you some other time. So just so like
All right. Let's
yeah, next one.
let's continue with the armors.
All right,
So
so
my
here,
favorite style, plate and mail, I would say is A tier, high A tier.
yeah.
All
So
right, this would be your typical
it's like
fully
just
your
like the lightest cloth or like Gambinson by itself. There's three
yes.
variations of it.
I, I have I have
Oh,
all of those armors that you listed, but I don't have them on me. So how would I demonstrate? All right. Uh, Here's the thing: you gotta start somewhere. You're a peasant. You just woken up from a coma. You don't know who you are or where you're going, but you know you got a sword and a dream. So you gotta start somewhere to protect yourself. Cloth armor, especially padded cloth armor, is the most basic and most commonly used types of armor, especially for like light infantry, the foot soldiers, the peasant levies who are taken into battle. Basically, everyone has cloth, especially if you live in a settled community. You have hemp, you have maybe other cloth material, cloth making material, maybe wool, maybe uh, What would be another type of material? Maybe cotton. What's the fluffy things? What's the
Furs?
cotton? Cotton.
Cotton. Ah, yes.
Cotton. So there are many different types of material that we make cloth. Each of them have their tensile strength, the ability to rip, and especially if you layer them on top of each other, maybe put something even softer in between. Basically, you're making a thick jacket, thick coat that is warm. If you're going into battle in the cold, it's great. But if you're going to battle when it's hot, it's oh yeah. I've been there wearing a gambeson in really hot summer. Uh, it's hell, but it's not as bad as having metal on your skin.
Yeah, speaking of
It's
hot, these
like
cuffs are getting hot.
yeah, it's really hot wearing thick padded armor in the summer, but it doesn't compare to actually having skin contact with the metal that is being heated up by the sun. So going back to the points, it's basically, I would say, it does its job. It's enough to stop maybe cuts, maybe bruises, maybe as you're a foot soldier, maybe you're not getting a lot of direct combat. You're basically um, cannon fodder. So someone might be not aiming at you, but random stones, flying arrows, and sort of things.
Yeah,
This
it might save you in a
might not
pinch.
save you from a direct attack from a knight who is trying to kill you, but a random scraps, man, a random spears and stuff like that, it might be able to stop. So, what's the tiers? Can you remind me of those?
Yeah, so we have poor, it's something, it works, it's good, it's dragon proof.
Ah, should I go poor or it's something? Because it's the armor of the poor,
Well, like
but
we
it's
do we do
something.
have a
It
lot more
gives you
options
some
here.
sort of
We
protection.
have many armors to go through, so we can change the position if we think it needs to
All right.
change.
Let's
Nothing's
say
locked.
let's put it in it's something, but if the poor area gets no not enough attention, we're going to push it down a bit.
Mm. All right, and what about this variation? Same thing.
I think that this one would be poor because at least the other one had leather and a much better braces and arm and leg protection.
Okay, we'll put that one in there. So poor and this variation.
It just got a jacket and a hat on, so it's stylish. So also it's something.
Yeah, he does have like Gabbinson all the way down to his thighs. The other ones didn't have
So
that.
yeah, that's much better than the previous one at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's full gamazon with maybe a coat.
Yeah.
The hat itself might actually protect. If it's a thick enough leather, this might actually protect you from random arrows. Not war bows that are intended to
Just
hit you, but
random.
like the ones like bunch of arrows flying down on your head.
Yeah.
Maybe it will stop a few. Maybe not stop fully, but some of them would get stuck in your head and help you not get wounded.
Alright,
All
so
right.
how about this one? This one is kind of in the style of like a basic Talbert or like a thicker, more Gabison version of like a Shawakamis.
I would say this is still poor because this
Very.
is not enough padding. The other ones had multiple layer, like the underneath the thick gambeson and something over it. I would say this is more poor.
Yeah, this would probably be more
No,
fitting of
this
a
is
wizard.
closer to something a normal person would wear.
Yeah, this probably be
Maybe
more
in a
fitting for a
colder
wizard.
climate.
Okay, now with this next one,
But it's always better to wear something.
then nothing.
Of course, if you're not a wild Celtic warrior who's going into battle fully naked, it's always better to wear something because human skin is really weak compared to
Yes.
every other animal. They have hides, they have thick furs to protect them,
Well,
but
like
we
think
have
about
none.
it.
God,
Like before,
God
it's one
only
layer of
gave us
skin.
brains.
Yeah, well, think about it. When it comes to fur, One, you have
Yeah,
one layer skin, yours. And if you add an
yeah.
animals onto it,
Even
that's
like
two
look,
layers of skin.
this is considered a thin layer of uh, our leather. This is considered to be thin layer. Human skin is far thinner than this,
Yeah.
and even the most basic of animals has thicker skin than us.
It's kind
So
of weird,
not
ain't it? How did we
metaphorically,
let this happen
maybe
to
we have.
us? All the other
Yeah,
animals they got.
evolutionarily, we got some like big brains, stamina, sweating, a lot of benefits, but in the protection and weapons, like our nails are basically useless. Our skin is has no protection. You
Man,
know the myth of Prometheus and Epimetheus.
yeah, I blame him.
Yeah,
We could have done this the old evolutionary race way. We could have
yeah,
we
but
could have had
Epimetheus
turtle
spent
skin.
all the claws and fangs and leather and hide on every other animal. So Prometheus was left with nothing to create humans. So he gave us fire and gave us intelligence to build armor, kill the animal, take its hide, and wrap it
Yeah,
around ourselves, and now we're protected.
yeah.
So
Unfortunate,
jokes on the bear.
unfortunately, all of this grandeur that this new mind awakens, all of it has done is just lead us to taxes.
Yeah,
Oh man.
taxes and death, the two inevitables.
All right. So this
All
next
right, let's
one,
continue.
this next
Let's put
one.
this in poor armor.
All right. This next. All right. I put that in poor. Now this next one, we gotta tread carefully because we might piss off a lot of people.
All
Oh,
right.
hold on. Uh,
Oh, okay, okay.
do armor or like typical samurai armor. They like it's lacquered steel, lamellar to some extent.
All right, give me a moment. I'll show something. All right, I was actually trying to make similar style of armor. Unfortunately, I don't have the lacquered steel one on me. I was making a cosplay of Oni, so I had different parts of my body covered by different types of metal. This is actually lacquered um, paper. This was actually theorized that Chinese were using this type of armor,
Yeah,
but same was said about Japanese. This would be if it's lacquered steel and metal, then I would say it's depending on style. There are some. I would okay.
because there's a lot of things going on. Now I designed
Yes,
this
there are a
one.
lot of things going on because
Yeah,
there are different styles of the Japanese armor is just aesthetic, but the style of armor, the style of design that was used, there are combinations of lamellar, laminar, laminated, metal, cloth, even leather, even paper, mail armor combined with plates. So many different things are going on here. I would say that this particular style is closer to plate armor, maybe even segmented armor. This would be either A tier or close to S tier, but I don't
because
know. Who do you want
there's a
to?
lot of weird things going on about it that makes me gives me pause and I don't know where to place it, and it has to do with because it's not just the manner of the armor but the coverage of the armor.
Yes, yes.
Because
It has a lot of weak points.
yeah, because if you look at like typical like gothic or medieval plate armor, there's a lot of coverage. There's very few weak spots. Like maybe under the armpits a little bit, maybe not near the
Even
groin.
there would be mail armor.
Yeah,
The gambits and the armin jack they were wearing usually had mail underneath their armpits and underneath their groins. So even that part was heavily protected.
now, when it comes
So
to Japanese armor, what I've noticed,
yeah,
and it's kind of strange, is their style of war evolved very, very differently. Because
yes,
what was king to them wasn't necessarily cutting you up at first. There's what was king in the beginning, as far as I understand it, was arrow fighting, right?
yes,
And
yes.
going in and
Horseback archery. Japanese
Yes.
samurai are one of the best at it.
Yeah. The Mongols will probably be very angry that you said that just now. but
Well, Mongols had their chance, but they failed. Well, they succeeded at
they,
some
they, they,
point,
they
but they
conquered
failed at the
Asia.
end.
All right, you
Yeah,
have
all right,
Asia.
all right, all right. As someone who was once conquered by Mongols, I cannot say anything about that.
So,
But we
but
were the first to free ourselves. Georgia was one of the first to break out and regain our independence. But then Timur the Lame King and
no,
complicated stuff.
now
All right,
the strange
I
part
would say
is
this is A tier
A
because
tier.
it does a lot of things that plate armor should do. Well, you could say this is lamellar armor, laminated, or laminar. Difference between lamellar and laminar. Lamellars are like this plates that
Right.
are thrown together with the hose right here, and laminar is actually long strips of metal that are combined together. So uh, most of the Japanese armor are actually made of lamellar plates that are sewn together and they're lacquered over.
Hmm.
So I would still put it in A tier. Yes, A tier.
So is this a good spot right in front of your favorite?
Yeah. The fact that this type of samurai armor also has plate and mail is the only reason I would allow it. Because the leg protection also contains plate and mail.
Hmm. All right.
All
Next
right.
one.
Because there are many different styles of Japanese armor that I really like, and I made some of them. Like this is a bit of a crappy version of more laminated uh, paper armor, but I made different
Is that
styles
to
of
go on your
Japanese
belly or
armor
on
as
your
well.
shoulder?
What?
Is that
This
to
is
go
supposed to be
on the belly?
chest
Ah,
plates.
because you're Oni, right? Are you gonna put like
Yeah,
little horns on there? Hmm.
this is how it's supposed to be.
Ah, okay.
It gives me a big belly. This is supposed to be armor for a Oni. The Oni demon,
Ah,
ogre type.
the ogres or Oniers are
Yeah.
weird. They're like somewhere between a Jin and an ogre almost.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
basic. More closer to Jin, I would say, but they're more. It's spirits that also have physical form, and depending on the folklore, it's again between Jin and the ogres.
Yeah.
So I made a Oni armor, and I used a lot of different Japanese styles and influences. I also made uh, a ring armor. Unfortunately, I don't have like Japanese have this type of
Yeah.
larger rings combined with smaller rings, and
I do believe
I've
there
made
is a
it
little bit of that. When we move these plates, we should see some chainmail
like
underneath their arms.
something like this. It's hard to
Yeah.
see, but this is Japanese style of mail
It
making.
looks like a hexagonal pattern.
Yeah.
Now we do see a little
I
bit of
should have put.
chainmail here, and
We should have made this
they're doing a
video
little
back
bit.
in my
Yeah.
where I have armor, but I wanted to show how they are made and materials that are used to make it. So,
Now we do have
all
some
right.
variations here. This won't be in the tier list, but it's just a show off. I did come up with mine. Like I saw like in Sekiro, I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, those are really cool coats. What are those? Go and look it up. In history, they have these things, and it was something that leaders or generals would use to signify or differentiate themselves. They would have these ornate coats that would go over the armors, or in cases like the one
Yeah.
above, keep you warm.
I've heard some of them were so big that when they were riding, it would create a giant balloon.
Yeah, it's like a big fucking like a big poster. It's got a bunch of writing on it. It's like, this is why I'm a badass, and this is all the badass stuff I did.
Yeah, I hope it is. All right.
So here we go. Some variations on it, and going to the next one.
This is basically just a playthrough. Okay, now are we at leather and hide armor?
Not quite. So this might be going into the later points, but because these are not in the tier list, but there are variations of these. Fur,
All right, all
just
right.
basic furs, and like reptile hides, like alligators or crocodiles or turtles.
I'd rather be in a alligator hide, but furs are also protective.
The
All
furs will
right,
keep you warm.
let's see what's the next on the tier list.
Ooh, I forgot about this.
Oh,
So
I
this
don't
is
know how protective actual feathers are.
no, not really. It's
I've
more
heard,
ornate.
yeah, I've heard the Aztecs have eagle armor and the jaguar armor, or there may be more costumes. Maybe they're more decorative. I wouldn't. I can't say either way.
Yeah. So where would you put this one?
I would say it's poor.
Very poor.
It looks scary. One of the things we need to also remember is the intimidation factor, because when you're going into battle, uh, one of the things the first that they see is how you look. So if you're intimidating enough, if you're scaring me, if you're imposing, your opponent is more likely to be scared, is more likely to even run away, not fight, and perceive you. A lot of armor, especially for example, samurais used to have demonic faces with horns and like scary, monstrous looking faces. That was the point, to psych the opponent out, to make them scared and make them intimidated. So when they are fighting you, they might be too frightened to actually defend themselves properly.
Yeah, we do.
And
Yeah.
in that point, in that regard, that might work. But if I see that kind of a person, I say it's a funny bird man, and I'll just hit him with a sword. It
Now,
takes more than a birdman costume to scare me. So
now we did have a character in our history in America. He went by the name. Well, actually, we got two characters like this, but only one of them was famous for it. Geronimo. You ever heard of such a man?
I've heard the word Geronimo.
Now it was used as a slang or a term of endearment, or like like a term of excitement, like Geronimo. But the
Yeah.
man himself, he became famous. He for fighting the American troops and whatnot, or like other forces. But what made him famous is that he had no fear at all. The
Mm.
cavalry would have their guns pointed at him, and he would still be running at you, axe in hand or whatever, and he'd be coming at you, and despite the fact they were firing their guns, they were so scared they all missed.
Damn.
He got away with it.
That's called the main character syndrome. Like
Yeah, real life main character.
he had plot armor on.
Exactly. Now,
The greatest type of armor, the plot armor.
plot armor,
The
top tier.
triple S tier protection. It keeps you safe until the plot demands you to die. All right, this guy is creepier, to be honest.
This guy's prettier, yeah. So he's obviously wearing more on it. He has like a studded leather on top of everything else, but
I'd
it's
say this
still
is does enough. Not the bird and the feathers, but the plate and the
it's
studded
something.
leather. Actually, it's something.
It's something. All right. Now
Not a
this,
lot of it works.
yeah.
All right.
Next one.
You really love these feathers.
Well, like, there's only three of them. Like, I had a. Well, here's the thing. I made armors for the mammalians, the big, the big mammals, and I made armors for the reptiles. And I felt the birds were neglected, and even if it was poor, I had to put it in.
Feathers serve a purpose much greater than protection. It's for attraction.
Yeah,
For,
like it's like, hey, look at me.
yes, one of the things, for example, peacocks. We associate peacocks to be beautiful and feminine, but they're actually males that show that, look how big my feathers are. Nobody has eaten me still. So imagine how difficult it is for me to fight, but I still survive. So that might be a symbol of, look at my giant feathers, that I'm still alive. So I would say not the feathers, but the plate and the leather and the combination armor that I see here that would make it good.
Good. Now, another thing that, in terms of feathers, because here's the thing, like I said with all my armors, they are segmented. You can wear certain parts on top of other ones. So you can wear, like, say, samurai armor, but have this feathered cape, for example. That's
I
something you
think
can do.
samurais would really appreciate it
Yeah,
because
they.
a lot of ceremonial armors went really, really crazy, especially when the warring periods ended and they were just more ceremonial and symbolic. Samurais really love to decorate crazy things for their armor.
I'm also sure that there will be quite a few players that, if they get the hands on the game, once we finish it, hopefully, if at all, uh, they will like. I want to be the Valkyrie, and they'll wear these wings, and they're like, look at me. I can't fly, but I look like I can.
The winged hussars.
The Ring Hazars, yeah. Like, weren't there like Polish Hazars like that were?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. All right,
The
next one.
winged hussars arrived. Okay,
Furs.
okay,
We're going into Conan
okay.
territory.
All right, Conan background barbarian.
So we got
All
some
right,
furs. It's just some leathers, and obviously the
again,
coverage is very poor.
intimidation. Intimidation is important. Furs exist because they're actually protective for the animal. It protects them from heat, from claws and bites. But I would say this is poor.
Mm.
Again, if I saw this guy, I wouldn't fight him because I don't want to catch what he has. Some sort of
Well, like, he's protecting the most important bits.
well, yes, yes.
The
Well,
loins.
I would. It's poor, but I would rather even go in this wear this than go without any other armor.
Right.
So it's better than nothing. So it's I would say poor.
Is it lesser than the bird?
Yes,
It is lesser than the bird.
the bird is scarier than this guy.
All right. Next one. We have fur, but with leather on top.
I would say this is something. This as I wouldn't go as far as good, but it has a lot of metal bits that actually does a lot of work, especially if you know how to use your armors. For example, if you use gladiators, for example, gladiators didn't have a lot of armor on, but what they had, they knew how to use. They knew to use their one cloth armored hand to like block, or they knew how to use their like little bit of armor they were provided, they knew how to use it and catch the opponent's weapon.
Mm.
So if it's a high skilled warrior, maybe it's good, but if it's just a regular get up, I would say it works.
All right. So we'll put this one in. It works. So we'll put it in. Oh, hold on. Now. That means we're putting it above the cloth jacket. Then it looks like.
Because it has cloth underneath and it's protective,
But it has no metal
but I don't
bits.
know, the same level as mail armor. I would say let's downgrade it. It's something, but under the leading board of it's something. All right.
Gotcha. All right. Next one. We got furs. Now this is more inspired
Ooh,
by
ooh.
some stuff that you
Okay,
would
it's
see in the
Inuit
Norse
armor
and the
with the
Inuit.
glasses, if I'm not mistaken.
It would be like furs head to toe because, like, I haven't mentioned this because it's not relevant to the ranking, but there is another type of status effect, that being frostbite. Right, you get cold and you get
Mm.
damage from it. So, like, say you walk into the snowy storm, or like something casts a spell on you
You
that
are
makes you
really hoping
freeze.
that wizard or mage only knows ice type of attacks and not any other like fire damage, you know?
Exactly.
All right. As someone who naturally has a lot of fur and also has a lot of fur on me, I would say that for bludgeoning and absorbing some damage, it's okay. For slashing and piercing, it's better than nothing, and it's natural armor. I would say, but it covers all of the body, so it's better than it's something. I would say it's
It's
something.
it's something. So is it how far up to something is it?
At the end of it,
At the
like
end.
it's. Here's the thing: if you turn the fur around and just have the
Then it's just
skin on
cloth.
top and fur underneath, you just have natural gambism.
Right. Then it's
So
just
it would be
cloth.
smarter to have the fur part underneath your protecting your body, and the leather bits outside to absorb the damage. So I don't know. Maybe someone would disagree. Again, get in the comments, give engagement to the video, and express your opinions.
All right, next one. Ooh,
Next, ooh,
yee.
oy.
This is hide. So it's basically
Ooh.
hardened
It's
hide.
hide because it's hiding. Like it's not.
Where is the armor?
Where is it?
It's
Where is
gone.
it? Going back to the gladiators, it would be like not the main show gladiators. Like off Broadway production, like off
You're
off
there for
gladiator.
show.
What's the gladiators? What's the arena? Why am I forgetting the names of the things?
Uh, Arenas?
Where the main gladiator Roman building with the gladiators and
The arena?
the Colosseum. The
Coliseums. Oh,
Colosseum.
yeah, there we
Yeah,
go.
off. This would be like off Colosseum production of a gladiator battle, with like maybe some slavers' bay or somewhere like that.
Yeah, they're like,
It's poor. It's poor.
very poor.
I would rather like gauntlets on one side, and I would rather focus on one side and have one side of my body really protected and like stand with one side in the front and use it as a shield than like scattered around the body.
Yeah. So this is obviously
Again,
the
if
very
it's a
bottom of poor.
gladiator fight and they're telling me I'm facing a lion, I would, and this is the only thing provided, I would wear it.
So at the very bottom of poor then.
Yeah, at least the lion would choke on me, or maybe die laughing, looking how I'm dressed.
All right, so we got another layer to this. So this is the second variation.
All right, this is better, but
Not much.
it's poorer version of the fur armor that you showed me. So I don't know. I'd say poor, but leading the poor.
Leading poor. All right.
He's in charge of the poor. Yeah.
That's right. All
Okay,
you.
sorry. Is the Gambison in the? Okay,
Yeah.
it's not as good as Gambison, so maybe behind the Gambison guy.
All right. So next thing we know, we're leading to the next one. Now, he has a little
Okay, it
something.
has leather, it has fur, it has helmet, it has metal, but I would say it's something. It's like steppe nomad or like barbarian or some other like outlander type of character. I would see someone wearing something like this
Mm.
because it's maybe they can't afford the actual armor. They made it at home, but they added some plate. So it's something. It's something.
Wearing something
At the before the fur guy,
before the
like
fur.
yeah,
Gotcha.
sure, yeah.
All right. Next guy is lamellar armor.
Okay, my one of my favorite lamellar armor. All right, all right. Now I've made multiple lamellar style of armor. Made it from leather, made it from metal, made it bigger, smaller. Here's the thing: it's really good. It does its job. It's one of the oldest style of armor. It's basically a better version of scale armor. Like for example, I have multiple pieces of bronze scale right here. I'm again trying to build a Bronze Age armor. So scales overlap, but they have glare and weakness because they are moving around, and the plates. It's easier to go through the plates. But in lamellar, the plates are tied together tightly, so it's harder to get through it. But it's not as flexible as scale, the main benefit of scale. But focusing on lamellar, it's great, it's protective, it's easily mass produced, as that is great for when you're building an army, especially when you, the king, are the one financing it. You, plate armor is great for rich knights to play a war together. So everyone buys their own equipment. Richer you are, better equipment you can afford. But if you're a soldier in an army, so the army has to provide it, lamellar would be their number one option, because it's you just make one type of plate, mass produce it, and tie basically use those plates to armor every type of big, small, short, fat, every type of personality with the amount of plates it needs.
Mm.
But one of the glaring weaknesses of this type of armor that I've been really struggling with are the strings that basically hold it together.
Mm.
You can make it out of leather, you can make it out of silk, you can make it out of rope, any type of material. Because it's metal, holding metal bits together, not even in combat where someone can slash you and open those laces up. Just the fact that you have metal scratching and moving around with other metal would slowly wear out every string. And
Mm.
I had to restring my lamellar armor at least two times already, and
Mm.
third time is coming. So
Ooh.
basically, just by marching or going to the combat zone, you have to be always checking. Oh, is this string broken? Should I fix this? Should I fix that? So it's a bigger problem than, I would say, brigandine armor that over time has to be uh, the leather has to be replaced. It's easier to replace the strings, of course, that are holding it together, but it's a constant hustle and a annoyance. So it's a problem for the soldier to maintain their own armor, but it's easier for mass production. Again, the plate and the rings, like the plate mail and the Bactar armor, that is the improved version of this type of armor, because rings don't usually break. If they break, you just get a new one, so it's easy to fix. But if the string breaks, it might unravel the whole mess of things. So usually you don't use single string to combine each and every one of them. You just sew them on and on and on and on.
Mm.
So one in the middle breaks, and now the whole system slowly collapses. This is a struggle for me as a armorer that has to combine. Before I even finish the full lamellar armor, the first one is already breaking. The first
Ooh.
ring is already breaking. So it might be a minute detail that might not come into the gameplay, especially if you're just running around hacking and slashing. But as an armorer, this is a I love this type of armor. This is the symbol of Byzantine knight, as you mentioned. Saint George is always depicted wearing Byzantine style of lamellar, like this type of armor. But as someone who has to maintain it, it's such a hassle. It's such an annoyance.
Ooh.
Every time the string breaks and the whole system collapses,
Mm.
I would say it's good, less good than the mail armor. I would say if I had a choice, I would rather wear this than chainmail,
Mm.
because it has better protection against piercing and slashing
That's two. For,
and even bludgeoning, because there are
that's three.
multiple plates holding together. But
In terms of
the
production,
maintaining
yeah,
of it.
the maintaining kills it
Oh
for you.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Well,
How many times I
the
had to like literally take the whole structure of the leather stripes, and I had to resew everything, and it's uh,
I can see the pain on your face. It actually kind of reminds me because like the Japanese armor is very much in a similar style. However,
yeah,
what
but they're
I've no-
lacquered.
what I've noticed about it beyond being lacquered is a lot of the sewings that keeps the plates together onto the mat is the strings themselves are very exterior. and on top of that, they sew around them and make them very ornate. So they're very brazen. Sometimes you see more string than you do the actual plate itself in some cases. So I wonder, is
That
it
makes
just
me
as
think that
tedious for them?
they don't know the terrors of actually uh, restringing their armor. They probably have a page or a servant who does all the hustle work for them.
And he goes,
So,
what do you mean
oh,
string
something
problem?
breaks. Oh, uh, come here, boy. Restring, fix my plate. And okay, it's not something that the samurai would worry about.
No,
But the fact that usually it's lamellar, like lacquered.
lacquered, yeah.
Yeah, if one string breaks, the other one doesn't need to be. The whole string doesn't need to be replaced. So you could just replace a little bit, and the lacquer would hold it like a glue. But as you
Mm.
mentioned, Japanese often use it as ornate decoration, and their poor servants who have to every night restring and fix every little broken detail, not even after combat, just by soldiers walking around in their armor.
I I
And
understand why
it's, I
Kikirujo
would
and
say it's just good. It's good. I still love it, but the restringing and fixing and
mm,
maintaining it is huge annoyance. But again, since the Stone Age to the modern age, it has been used uh, quite a long time. So
yeah,
I love it
it's
personally.
very popular. Well, from what I've seen,
Yes.
you see it in the Bronze Age. You've seen it used by the Byzantine. You've seen it used by the Saracens. You've seen it used by North Africans and even some Central Africans, like the Mali, for example, in some cases. And in other cases, you've even seen Mongols use it. Mongols
Yes,
have
yes.
used
Mongols
it.
love this type of
Yeah,
armor.
it's
This and
probably
brigandine.
it's probably the most popular armor in terms of
I would say
cultural
so. Yes.
appeal. So where would you plate this?
Male, like the male and the lamellar are two of the most popular styles of armor. But again, for some reason, it didn't catch on in Western Europe. Again, even Vikings used it, but Vikings that raided eastern parts, like down to the Black Sea and the Byzantine area, those guys used it.
Mm.
But
Like the ones
for
that went
some
down to
reason, it didn't
Bulgaria.
catch on in the West. The same, it's actually the same principle as brigandine, but the difference is that it's not put, the leather isn't underneath, it's on top.
Yeah.
So
So where would you plate
I'm
this?
personally partial to lamellar armor. I love it, but I hate the fact of maintaining.
Right. All right. Like rate this as someone that's just wearing lamellar. You know, like
If you're wearing lamellar and if it's fitted to you, it's great. It's not as flexible and mobile as, for example, scale armor. It has basically the same benefits as other small plated armor like brigandine and such armors that made up of small plates. Like samurais used it, everyone used it from all over the world except again Western Europe.
they want to be
But
special.
again, maintaining it is the most difficult part. As armor is great, especially if it's overlapping. If there could be two types basically. If it's on the edge of one another, so you have small little weak points in between those plates.
And that's
But
probably
if
closer
you
to this
overlap them,
illustration.
if
Yeah.
they're overlapping on the sides, they're basically candy. This is like side by side.
Yeah.
This is more Byzantine style.
Mm. I mean, that's kind of what I went off of. I also saw like I remember seeing this really really old movie of it was based on Beowulf, and
Hmm.
Beowulf was in it, and it was like Beowulf. The movie was called like Beowulf and Grendel, and the guy that was playing Beowulf, he was sailing to the land of the Geats, and he wanted to show off when he landed, so he had this full, I think, lamellar with his like Norse helm, and he lands the ship, and he's like, "Where's the king? Look at how spiffy I am. I'm all dressed up and you guys ain't even here to
He
greet me."
probably was a mercenary in
Yeah.
the Byzantine army. That's where he might have gotten.
Yeah.
And a similar armor was actually shown in the Vikings, I think it is called the not the Vikings, Norsemen
Mm.
um, movie about like the story of what's the God damn I forgot the Robert Eggers movie.
I've seen that.
It
That's
came
a
out
good
with
movie. I own it.
yeah, it's a good movie, and for a glimpse, for a moment, some character wears it, but it's like for a slight moment.
I think it
Again,
was some
like
of the.
we're picking at slight moments. That's how rarely this one of the most popular styles of armors are used. But if you go into Asia, like um, Korean or Chinese or even Japanese dramas and movies and shows, lamellar armor is most likely to be depicted. Even samurai armor is most likely to be lamellar armor, again with laminating.
Mm. So where would we put this on the tier list?
Okay, I would say works because it's good. Again, it's good, but it has some downsides. Again,
Is it
maintaining
better
it
than
is a
chainmail?
piece of work.
Is it better than chainmail?
Chainmail eventually replaced it, but most of its history, especially from the Roman period, as like High Roman period to the fall of the Byzantine Empire, it was always used.
Mm.
So chainmail is more flexible and has a lot of protection underneath. Usually, lamellar armor was worn on top of chainmail.
Mm.
So I personally prefer it because it's much more comfortable and flexible than mail. But again, armpits, joints, that kind of stuff, mail is much better. So that would be a okay part of it.
Okay.
I think the main reason mail was more popular it's the fact that making large plates like this it still takes a lot of skill and maybe a lot of people couldn't afford it. So for
Mm.
a if you're a great empire and you're arming a lot of people, that would be your number one style of armor until plate mail comes along. Comes along.
Mm. All right. Next one. We're going into leathers. Treated leathers.
All right,
Again,
this is
Conan territory.
again, yeah, what is good in life.
But you may have noticed there is a little bit difference compared to the other ones we've seen that are more naked. And that is that the midsection, just below where the ribs meet the stomach, is fully covered. So you're less
Again,
likely to
this
disembowel
would
this
go
man.
into a gladiator style of armor. That
Yeah.
maybe for show, maybe like it has its function. So, uh, so what's the like? I don't want to go to poor, but
We could put
it's
it.
something. Yeah, let's go with
It's
something.
something. All right, maybe at the bottom of something.
Sure, it's something because it covers more than a lot of poor armor, and it has some metal bits, especially a helmet. Helmet is really important.
Mm.
One of the biggest annoyances I have in media, especially in Hollywood movies, is the lack of helmets.
Mm.
People will be wearing full plate of armor and no helmet. Excuse me. This is where the brain lives. Slight bonk and slight cut. Your eyes, you're like, I would rather lose a finger than lose an ear or lose something like around my face.
Even in
You
the
would be much better wearing a helmet and being naked underneath than wearing something like body protective and nothing for the head. Because head is the most important part. If you get hit with a club in your chest, it would hurt. If you
mm,
get hit with a club in your head,
you would
you are
die.
knocked out.
You would die.
Yeah, at the best, like you would usually die. So
So,
helmet number one. Additional metal bits is really helpful and it's covering more than a lot of places. So it's lower on the it works. Yeah.
now I recall even in the you've seen Conan the Barbarian, right, with Arnold
I've seen
Schwarzenegger.
every Conan adaptation,
Okay.
even the bad ones.
What did you see the one with Jason Momoa?
Of course.
I
He
I
has
liked him as
potential.
as Conan. You know.
Yes, that was my problem because modern modern Momoa, where
Yeah.
he's more like more boisterous and like he was too serious. Okay, Conan in the books is really serious.
Yes.
Arnold Schwarzenegger's Conan is a bit more silly.
Yeah.
So I would say Jason Momoa is actually one of the best actors, the actors that can actually play book accurate Conans. But I think he needs to be. He wasn't as lively. Like he
I
still needs to be
I also believe
like
that the overall plot story of the movie was very
yeah.
lacking.
The movie on its own is just random
Yeah.
like nonsense.
I would like to see him do it again, but under
Yes,
a different director. You know?
exactly. With a good script and Jason Momoa, I think, is much more of a charismatic actor now.
Yeah.
Before then, he was. I I don't even think he was playing a character. He was just a guy.
Yeah.
He wasn't like
There,
even
there are
compared to
mo- there,
Arnold
there, are,
Schwarzenegger,
there
who
are
also
moments
did
where
one
he
of his first
shines.
movies.
Yeah. There are moments where he
He like
shines, but
Arnold was struggling, especially like with his accent, but he was like having fun. You were like, he wasn't the Conan of the books, like the wise noble savage who was like cunning and the strength of a like I don't know lion and an eagle, but he was a silly barbarian who was growing and like maturing as a person in the movie. That I really like.
yeah.
But
And the first
Jason
movie,
Momoa in the movie, he was like a well, like looked like Conan, exactly like more
yeah.
dark skinned and like muscular and than even like Arnold Schwarzenegger would be. Like he's more
He looked like a
closer to the image
Sumerian.
of.
He looked
Hmm?
like a Sumerian, you know? Which is
Yeah,
what
so well,
Conan was.
technically not it's complicated, but
It's
closer to it.
the Sumerian of, the writer the writer's world.
Sure, sure. There's like Iranian steppe nomads. Like the funniest thing, using Sumerian as a basis for your character and not including cultures in your world. Like
It is
their
really
most defining thing, the Chimerians, as we call them,
it's
is
it,
actually fighting Colchians and like okay,
yeah.
again off topic.
It
Let's
is really
back to
silly.
the armor.
All right, but the next one we have Leather Variation 2.
There's a giant spider in my room. All right, now this is actually protected. Not the shins, not the knees, uh, but everywhere else, I would say, this
Not
is
a lot of
actually
neck
pretty
movement,
good. Like
but
it's like I would imagine this would be either a guard, a city guard, maybe in a desert area, or a like peer prison warden. This is not someone who goes into battle, but does like work in the city, like dealing with the criminals.
he's wary of people stabbing in the neck.
Yes, especially the neck,
The
like
neck, the shoulders, the torso.
backstabbers, neck stabbers. This is something closer to a city guard in my imagination.
Yeah.
So I would say it's something, but in the lead. It's not. It works because uh,
Did you say in the
maybe
lead of
with
something?
yes, I would say so
In the lead. All right.
because it's the most functional of the types of armor, like
It's
the
got a
leather
lot of
and the
coverage. Yeah.
yes, a lot of again.
Coverage
These
matters. Coverage
yeah
matters.
combination of leather and padding armor is actually really good because both of them have their own weaknesses and pluses. So combination armor is always a plus for me.
All right. Next variation. Leather Variation 3.
Okay, now I have to put this in. It works.
It works.
It's studded. It's padded. It's I don't know. Putting it with male and lamellar, it's kind of a difficult thing, but this would be functional because uh, combination of studded leather, especially if it's multiple layers of leather and padding underneath, this is like a thick, crunchy sandwich that might actually be great against clawed and fanged opponents.
Yeah.
If this would be my choice for a beast hunter's armor. If
Yeah.
I'm going to face someone who is like stabbing, piercing, with claws, with fangs, with like giant eagles or scorpions or stuff like that, I would use this type of armor.
All right. So where are we putting this? Putting it in the
It
bottom tier
works,
of it
it works.
works, or is it
And
above
as
the
a
feathered?
monster hunter armor, that would be my choice.
So is it above the feathered
Maybe
or?
at the end of the day it works. It lacks a lot of metal plates to
Ah, okay.
count it.
Yeah, at the bottom of it works. Okay, let's see. Next one. We do have just some variations of like leather bits. Like we have like this, like you've seen in Conan, like that lady with the skull
Yeah,
cap one, and then the with just skull caps in general. Ones with more face
I have
covering.
spoken plates.
Yeah, just to protect the top of your head whenever someone's going for your noggin.
Yeah, that's actually, if you want to protect somewhere, top of your skull is actually the biggest weak point.
Yeah,
Like,
it kind of looks like just
I'm
with the
being
skull cap
invaded
by
by
itself.
pretty little crawly spiders.
If
All
you
right.
if you
Okay.
didn't know that that was
I
cloth,
look to
I would
both.
say that would be like a cuff. Oh, hold on.
Remanded.
Nope, we're still here, but looks like we need to. Give me 1 second. I don't know why it decided to turn off. I'll just turn on to sharing screens again. Share entire screen. There we go. And then I'll use the pop up.
Are you still recording?
Yep, we are still recording. OBS didn't shut down.
All
Just
right.
just this did. So there we go. We're back.
All right.
So these are just some variations,
Okay.
and some more variations on how do you say some of those leather bits. So like in case that one suit didn't have enough protection on the arms and shins, you have those, and the different variations of the pauldrons. Because all of this is designed to be modular, so you can switch and match. So there's other things you could put together.
Yes. Okay. We're now in the
Now we're talking.
musculata territory.
Now this is the low tier of plate. So this is like I try to figure out what is the simplest kind of plate armor that exists. Now it obviously wasn't made out of steel, but at the time, like for like in the early ancient days, where there's during like ancient Greece and like Troy and all that, they would have like these large decorative, very stiff, but large decorative plate pieces, and they didn't have the wisdom. They didn't have the wisdom of the Dark Age, where they designed their plates, their chest plates, to be rounded, or I guess you could say cuffed. And so they designed little muscles on them because they wanted everybody to think they were ripped. But the problem that I
intimidation factor, especially remember, it's
yeah
ancient Greece, so
yeah we're
showing off your chest, even if your clothes, is really important.
Now, the only the biggest flaw I see with doing designs like that, like it's great for intimidation factor. It's still made of metal. It will still protect your innards, but because there was so much carving done in some cases, like sometimes they just colored it, right? But sometimes they did carve it, and when they carved it, they caused dimples in the steel. And so, if you were to say try to stab at them, right? Even if you continued with the stab, it would lead the point of your blade to the seams where the armor would crease. And because of that, sometimes, because of the nature of how those armors were carved, sometimes those parts were weak. And so, like maybe just underneath where the boob or the like muscle here would be, like if you try hard enough, you can stab through it if it's of an inferior steel or inferior metal that you're stabbing against. But
Yes, I
but
get
it's
your
still
point.
metal.
I get your point.
Yeah, it's still metal.
It's a weak point again, but remember this one is designed to be steel, right?
Yeah.
The original breastplates were made of bronze and copper and tin, which are relative compared to steel, and depends on iron. Some iron is more brittle than copper and bronze, but they were really easy to dent and easy to take the shape out. So to keep the shape hardened, the bronze workers would leave a lot of holes and indents, so it's not as easy to bend it out of shape.
Mm.
So one of the reasons they made musculatas and hammer those out is to create more curves, to create more indents, so the structure doesn't easily bend. Because without it, okay, give me a moment. I'm also working on some bronze age
Oh, wait a
pieces
minute.
right
You told me about this the last time we called. I'm
now. All
remembering.
right.
Yeah.
So okay, you can see these are okay. There's the camera. These
Hmm.
are little uh, rounded out metal bits, right?
Yeah.
The point is that if this was flat, it would be really easy to bend out of shape.
Right.
But because it's rounded and there are many, it was hammered out to be like rounded disc shape. It's much harder to actually bend it out of shape. But if you go in reverse, it's much easier. No?
Right.
But it's still hard. But if it was just metal without any bends, it would be really easy to bend it out of shape. So that is the main reason why, of course, looking sexy with six packs, that's also a huge reason. But later on, like in medieval period, when steel plate armor came to be, as you stated, it was more for decoration and for status. To look how cool I am. I'm not. If you're wearing this type of musculata, you are not as likely to actually swing a sword. You're there to be the commander, to be the symbol. Like give orders, go there, go there. Your main job is to stand there, give orders, maybe to get hit with arrows and to be protected by it. So it's limited movement. It has a lot of downsides, um, but the style is there. The importance is to be like protected in the back of the soldiers. You're not the one standing in the front. You're the commander. You're the general. You're the leader of the legionaries. So you don't really need all that mobility that bending down and up provides. If you need to pick something up, you have a boy to do it for you, and that's, I would say, it works.
This works. All right.
This works.
Where would you put it in
Maybe not
works?
the short metal bits, metal armor, like having your knees exposed, but it works.
Yeah. Well, like it's just a. Actually, the knee is covered, so it's just at that little thigh right there, just above the
Hmm.
knee, which I guess is just as bad.
Yeah, you're just leaving a weak point to be exposed. But actually, sometimes soldiers used to leave weak points specifically for their opponents to try to expose it, and they knew, of course, I have a weak point here. You're going to hit here, so I know where to guard, and I know where you're going to hit me.
In the case for like many of those Greek or Mediterranean warriors, they would have like the chest plate. They would have the shins, maybe something on the forearms, but not much else on
Yeah,
term of like the actual arm itself or the thighs.
because they had a huge shield.
They had a huge shield. It compensated very well, and it made it very
Yeah,
easy to
having a
run.
big shield and a lot of friends around you to also make a huge shield wall. That's been the style since the Stone Age to the like really late medieval period, because
Actually, even
shield
even
wall
even
is
later, because Zulu ended up using the shield
oh
walls too against the
yes, yes,
British.
yes, of course, Zulu as well. So like it was used for much of human history.
Yeah.
Shield is one of the best protection, even better than Autobahn. Okay,
Now
okay,
we
okay.
got
Now we're
plate
getting somewhere.
plate number two.
This is your typical medieval mercenary grunt who has been fighting, has looted a lot of other soldiers, got a bit from there, got a bit from there. This is this is it's not fully the full plate that you need to be fully protected, but I think it works. Like maybe it's even good. I would say it's good.
Mm. So we'll put it in good then.
Yeah, I
Right.
would say it's good because maybe at the end of it, because it's this is how I imagine a typical mid-level mercenary who has been through a couple of battles, came with a gambeson and a dream,
Mm.
and that dream was hopefully other people die before me. So after the battle, I have a whole story about this guy. He looted someone, stole this part of armor, the other guy stole. Like everyone was chasing the kill the lord or a noble with full armor, and he got a little bit of this, won some maybe few pieces of armor in a card game, and he slowly and surely cobbled up a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and hopefully a main character comes along and cuts him in half.
Mm. Yeah.
Cuts him
So.
in twain, and he's forgotten as a like random background character who was killed by the main character.
Mm. All right. So the
But it's
next.
actually quite protective, you know.
Yeah, it's
Not
protecting all the most
higher
important
up, but it's
bits.
good.
Yeah. Next one, we have plate variation number 3.
Okay, okay. Some style mixing from different periods, but
I borrowed
okay.
some from High Gothic in like Germany, a little bit of France, and some from Italy, especially from Italy with the long greave covers. They are not.
Yes, yes,
You
yes.
may notice that like these are overlays, so you can wear these over your legs. He has
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
plated leg, but these greaves itself, they're not attached to the leg. They're sitting more like a skirt. Now, this is more useful, I imagine, because when I looked at the description of the armors, these were more useful for people who were fully armored but put on horseback.
Yes, yes, yes. Gave it enough flexibility and protection. This is mix of a lot of styles, but again, you're making your own world. You don't need to be like fully connected to the history. You're
Yeah.
actually side tangent. You're doing a better job than a lot of Hollywood video games, animation, movies, TV shows. You're doing much more of an effort than many of them. So maybe it's not 100% from this period, this style, but the combination and the design works pretty well. This would be, I would say, this would be S tier
S
because
tier.
you're fully protected.
Ah, so the
Maybe not as
East.
flexible, maybe not as mobile, but if you're on a horseback and with a lance and with a determination, you would be a great, for example, a knight or a king's guard or someone who is like wealthy, noble, and has a specific job and a duty.
Finally, the Middle Eastern armors finally have a competitor. Since we're putting it in S. Now, how far up in S are we putting it?
I would say far up than the other two.
Ah, so in front,
Now I'm kind of all
they've
right.
been dethroned.
Maybe we will rethink some of these choices after we finish
Yeah.
because
Well, we can go back and change it. All right.
yeah. All right, let's continue.
Plate variation number 4.
Okay, this is your typical uh, like gothic. Put this on and go into the forest and put some TikTok music over it, and you'll get a lot of views.
Oh yeah, the dark age edits and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Give it like a aesthetic cover, or like put some metal over it, and you or like some medieval sounding music. So this is your typical idea of medieval knight. Again, mishmashing of different styles, different periods, but this is your idea of gothic knight coming in. So this is of course S tier. Again, I'm not arguing that
Yeah,
this
like
type of
it's a lot of
Western
coverage.
European plate armor is great protection, but again, 2 points. Really expensive, and again, not to say that it's not stereotype being that you cannot move in this type of armor. No, no, no. You
Yeah.
can, You can move around, but your movement is still again limited. And it like to have this type of armor, you need to be really wealthy. You need to be a high lord with a lot of money. This isn't something that you just randomly find on a goon or like find it in a medieval thrift shop.
Yeah.
This is specifically forged and made for you, made for your body, and it would basically be worth maybe half a castle.
Yeah, like it's the type of thing where it takes a small town to raise the funds for.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh,
No, maybe not even a small town because it's really, really expensive.
very
Something
expensive.
like this are made for like years by professional blacksmiths working in really expensive blacksmith shops. It's like high tier. This would be basically Bugatti of the medieval age, or like a like really expensive Mercedes.
Yeah.
If you're wearing this, basically nobody will kill you because you're more we could grab you and what's the English
They'll ransom you.
uh, ransom
Yeah. Now you did.
ransom you out.
Yeah, you did remind me earlier about weight and like people being sluggish around. I think I talked about this the last time we talked. That I will not be doing like a typical weigh down system where you just become more encumbered over time based on however much armor you're wearing. Instead, I am doing a system where there isn't a compass stat that basically says, okay, how much in terms of like limited movement, or like I guess you could say, how do I put it? It limits your stamina, not your movement.
Yes, yes, yes.
So like,
It doesn't affect your strength. One of the
yeah,
important things that I want the people to know that armor is made for your body. It's basically extra layer of skin. If it's of course if it's quality made and if it's fit for your body. As a fat person, I'm already carrying about like 20 extra kilos. So
mm,
this armor would be more like 30 kilos, even 40 kilos. But if the weight is perfectly distributed, and if you're, for example, a skinny person, it might be like 20 kilos even.
yeah,
For example, women's armor would be much lighter than male armor because a lot of men are bigger than most of women. So this type of armor is, especially if it's like tied to your body really well, doesn't affect your strength. You can wear it even if you're relatively a weaker person. But the heat, the sun, the metal boiling. Imagine everyone knows a hot car in the sun. How even touching it can hurt you, can burn you.
yeah. I may got.
Imagine now wearing it
Oh yeah.
and running around in it. Of course, you are able to move. You, if it's again quality made, you are able to jump around, like kneel down, take stuff, blah blah blah. But every movement is exhausting. All your internal heat and external heat, all of them are being trapped inside. Again, I've been like it's summer right now, and I've been in scale armor, the gambas, and different type of armor. Nothing is worse than metal touching your body.
Mm,
And even if you're wearing something underneath, this is like scorching territory.
yeah, you're
So
basically in a
this is
hot
why I
box.
think this type of armor was more popular in Western, Northwestern Europe, where
Where
it
it's
doesn't
cold.
get as stuff. Yeah, where
Where
it's
it's
cold.
cold.
But now, even in the places like Spain and Italy, we have similar types of armor. So maybe if you're hardcore enough and if you're crazy enough, you can actually power through it.
Yeah.
Imagine being a conquistador going
Ooh.
into Americas, fighting Incas, and meanwhile being boiled alive in your own
It did
sweat.
from what I understand for many, because like when it came to like very 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 early conquistadors, because they were still in night drip at that time, they were still wearing armors and stuff. Guns were not as popular, but they were still being used. When they came into contact with natives, whether that be South America or North America or whatever the case might be, they didn't have a very good time because America is fucking hot.
Yes, I would imagine. I would imagine.
Yeah. And meanwhile, the natives, they ain't wearing close to
It's crazy
nothing. They're
that some of
like,
them still did it. But I've heard even stories that other conquistadors would drop their metal armor and take on the cotton armor of the Incas. Not
yeah,
Incas, sorry, Aztec.
the Aztecs, yes. The Aztecs, like,
All right, this
notice,
is, let's
yeah,
power
next one.
through. Few of them left.
All right.
This is
Now
S
we
tier.
have, this is basically, I
Oh,
looked at various things that came out of Italy, which is the segmata, right? So you have the Roman
exactly.
segmata, you have the gladiatorial arms things that they
Yes.
did, and they did the same thing for their leggings. But what was strange is that I noticed that very, very rarely did they had all of those plates in the same combination all together. Very rarely.
I would say it's logical enough that someone actually did this
Yeah.
because they had legs, they have the chest part, they had this, they had that. But it's the thing like if it's military uniform, it's designed for not for the individual but for the army. So someone like this is maybe too heavy and too expensive to go on long marches to go from Rome to I don't know England or Mediterranean like coast of Libya or somewhere like that. So this guy might be more like um, Roman. What's the Roman emperor guard? The Predo. Oh, I can't remember. Sorry,
Julius
sorry,
Caesar?
I forget. What?
Are you talking about the one that got stabbed to death?
The the Roman guard, the guard of the emperor.
God of Emperor.
The Predo something. I don't. Okay, I'm sorry. Cannot remember. It's uh, where I live in Georgia. It's 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh
So
shit.
please
Okay.
forgive me.
Nah, don't be.
Predatory or predator something or other. So this would be, in my imagination, elite Roman guard of the emperor,
Mm.
or like a the final gladiatory boss. Like you've defeated all the other
This
gladiatorial
last one.
warriors, and this guy is the final boss. You've been given a toothpick and need to fight this guy.
Now, in terms of coverage, he has a lot. There's
Yes,
very not a lot of room to stab.
yes, but again, if you have a thin enough blade and if you have brave enough balls, you could go through and try to run through the plates because they're larger plates. They're
Mm.
not as tightly overlapping. There is still possibility of jamming your blade through. Like uh, if you're, for example, a halfling assassin, maybe you would run around and go into their leg bits and uh, jam up the
Yeah.
plates. But
Now, now it's
it's
not
still
shown, but I do realize that, for instance, the inner part of the arm or the back of the leg, it is not
yes.
covered, and you cannot
But
cover
I would
it.
still say this is like more 80% protected.
Yeah.
Like there is no 100% protection
Yeah.
in any case, but this is close to 80%. And again, I would still put it in S tier.
S tier.
Again,
Where in S
someone
tier?
might be say like it's more good, this but I don't know. It protects so much that I don't know how historical, but I would still imagine that someone in the Roman period would get decked out like
I
this.
only managed to find one photo close to this, but the helmet was different. They basically
Yes.
gave him a long tube of a helmet. It was like almost like a bucket.
Well, a bucket is better than nothing. Alright, these are actually good styles of helmet. Are we
Yeah.
judging the helmets or are we judging the chest plate?
Oh no, these are just variations just to look. Next we have scale.
Oh,
Variation
scale,
one.
scale, my beloved.
Mm.
I have a lot of troubled relation with scale. It's similar to lamellar, and I made a Scythian scale armor, and I've been chancing trolloping or running around in it, and it often breaks. So um, I would say it's close to lamellar, but not as good as lamellar.
Close to laminar.
That's my problem. It's more flexible. You have more ability to move around, but again, lamellar is much more protective. So I would say works on the end of it.
On the end of it. So below the
Yeah.
leather?
Not okay, above the leather, but below lamellar.
Below lamellar. So right there in the
So
middle.
maybe even musculata, let's say, because again, if you're skilled enough, you can get through that skills. Like again,
Yeah.
jamming from below can get through them.
So
So
below the
that should
masculine
be
plate?
yes.
Alright. Next one, scale variation number 2.
Okay, this is more like scale but fancier. All right,
A little bit
this
fantasy,
is
yeah.
above the scale. I would say like this is better than the scale. Is it better than lamellar? I don't know. I like the chest protective like chest bit, and I like some details. But again, scale but better.
Scale but better. Alright, so we'll put that in the same place, but just a little higher.
Yes.
Alright, next one we have scale variation number 3. Now, I've only ever seen this kind of armor used by Mongols and certain Chinese armor styles.
Actually, it was used in medieval Europe as well.
Oh,
I've
this.
seen some paintings of medieval battles with that exact design of scale, and actually, I've seen some Georgian reconstruction illustrations with similar design. This
Oh.
is again. Would I say this is better than lamellar? No. Would I say this is the best of the scale? Yes.
Mm. Now, there is a variation on top of that. Hold on, let me skip to the. God damn it. Alright, now, that whole coiffed that came off the neck, it was like a pauldron. So there was like a scale shaved over the arms and chest, and it kind of covered this whole area. So this is what it looks like underneath it. So I guess it's like 2 layers of scales. It's very heavy.
Hmm. This would be really encumbering, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, the flexibility is good, but the fact that it's really easy to again jam
Yeah.
through the scales, go up the layers and layers, and stab away, it's really not that beneficial.
Alright. Then we'll put that right above top scale there. Next one, we have scale hide, the animal skins. Going back into that
Hmm.
Conan territory.
If it's just a crocodile, but maybe like we could think like someone skinned a lizard person or a uh, like a dragon or something.
Like
It's actually
the idea is like a large
limited.
reptile, kind of like a
Yes,
Komodo
maybe like
dragon, or
typical
yeah,
giant snake from Conan the Barbarian, or
yeah,
some sort of a gigantic animal. So I'm a big fan of the idea, but how practical is it? Fully depends on what kind of a creature it is. Is
yeah.
it like uh, does it have some extra characteristics that normal animals don't? So
Well, I guess in this,
alligators and crocodiles, they have pretty thick skin.
yeah, in this
So if
context, I
it's like,
guess it's closer to that. In this context,
yeah,
it's
I
closer.
would say it sounds like it's not poor, but it's not great. You know, like
Yeah, that and the
maybe
coverage.
above like number one in poor.
Number one in poor.
Maybe even like it's covering like chest, but like if you're slashing, you like yeah, no, poor above poor. You know, because the it's something at the end we have better armor there.
Yeah. All right. So next one is scale high variation number 2.
All right, this is just
It's more coverage and more metal bits.
this is the thing. Like I've liked every combination. This is just two different styles of combination. It works, but aesthetically, I don't think like these two the design speed. I would say this would be it's something, but like better than like it the start of it's something.
All right. So it's better than the leather bit, right about here.
Yeah,
So it's lesser than fur.
I would say it's better than fur. Like
Better than fair.
I would say it's better than Gambison. Uh, let's say it's in the start of its something.
The
It
start of it's
the
something.
first yes that
All right. So better than leather in general.
yeah, like the metal is doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
The shoulder and the
The
like
gutla. I guess I don't know.
yes.
I made up an armor for the gut area. I just called it gutla, but I don't
No,
know what
this
they
type of
call it.
armor like it's actually good and it's protective, but
Yeah.
again, uh, protects vital bits. But okay, now this is interesting.
Yeah. Scale height variation of 3. This one I kind of went a little deeper on. Now, you may have noticed that it's not exactly a pants, but we do have an overlay of greaves, so you can wear this over pants or over your greaves, this scale hide, and it's underneath this. I guess you could say this gutlet, this iron belt, and it sits up top of another scale
I
hide shirt.
This is really interesting because I have hard time placing because the metal bits are doing the metal bits, but the flowing bits of thick hide, like it's like I don't know, it's really cool. Like as a designer, like this should be like a mercenary type of character that has been all over the world and gathered this bit from there, this bit from there. So if I see this guy coming, I would be scared. Like he's both a great hunter
Yeah,
and a great soldier. So
yeah.
I would say it works, but in the like maybe even above it works. Let's see what we have in there.
We have this is what we have in works. We got chainmail at
Let's
the
say
top.
at the end of it works, like uh, above the leather and the padding. You know,
Oh,
yes, right there. That would
right,
be
right here.
my placement. Yes.
So it's lesser than the
Okay.
feather
Here's the
color.
thing. Here's the thing. I'm now regretting some choices.
Ah, see, I knew that we would have to make some switcheroos. That's why nothing's locked down yet.
All right. Now, here's the thing. Because like because it's not the SAB. Now I regret putting so many things in. It works.
Hmm.
I would say I would just to survive the onslaught. I would put chainmail and lamellar in good,
Chainmail
because,
and
but at
lamellar are
the end
good.
of the good, you know, like at,
Right here.
maybe okay, and move the coat of thousand nails or like the coat.
With the chainmail.
Maybe let's put it in good.
Bottom of good.
Yes, because I like the idea of it. I like the company. Like the I'm more in love with the principle of it. The
Mm.
combination of like mail here, leather here, plate there. So using every bit of protective capabilities to cover each part. That's like interesting and smart design. That's what I like. But in
So
principle, it's not as protective as, for example, the um, dragon-proof level armor.
mm,
If I was actually designing a dragon fighting armor or dragon rider's armor, I would use this design because fire and metal don't mix. I would rather have like thick hides or thick like leather or something that is great at stopping claws and fangs and doesn't burn easily and doesn't get hot. So if I was going to fight a dragon, I would much prefer that kind of a coat over my body.
would you put
But
it? Would you put
it's
it
it's
above
just
regular
symbolic
chainmail?
name. So like plate armor that has maximum protective
Yeah.
capabilities and covers your body is more important for me. Now, works category works great. I think. Would I put any? It's something. I would say number one of it's something. I think should go into it works.
Looks like the scaly hide armors are very scattered to some extent, with the first
It's
variation
the
being poor.
amount of body covering, I think.
Yeah, the coverage
Okay.
makes the difference, it seems.
Yes. I think the amount of body is being covered. All right. I think now that I'm looking at it, I'm pretty okay with the choices. Someone would disagree with me. Someone would be like, male should be this. Someone would be like, height should be that. But I think, as practicality goes, uh, this would be all of them can work as armor. Armor, you know. If I'm a poor peasant, I would go with the cloth armor. If I'm a slave soldier in some desert colonies, I would go with hide, like scattered hide armor. You know, each of them provides its own protective qualities in different areas of life, stages of life, different cultures, and different attitudes. But, you know, at the end of the day, you want your body to be covered as much as possible, and you want as much flexibility and the ability to move around. So, full plate armor and Bechtar armor that covers most of your body with metal is the best type of armor at the end of the day.
Yeah, it looks like the average in terms of armors that are probably the most accessible to some extent, but also, roundabout defense is scale. It looks like that's where the placement
I would
looks.
say so. Lamellar and scale are two most popular types of armor. You could argue which one is older, which one is more commonly used, but scale is basically nature invented scale armor and gave
Mm,
it to the first creatures that came from like the sea and to the earth. Like fish have it, and the lizards have it. Like
right.
the
And some
creepy
mammals like the
crawly. So
pangolins.
even some animals like pangolins, they also have it. So if nature thinks it's a great type of armor, who am I to disagree?
Right. Now, it looks like, despite everything, Batteret armor still, top tier. Like, it
I would
sits
say
among
so
them, yeah.
because it's multiple plates heavily interlocked and greater distributing force, greater protecting. That is the armor of the Middle East and the Eastern world basically.
Mm,
It didn't catch on in the Western world. Again, to remember, plate armor exists and is popular in the Western world because they have knight system where local lords gather a lot of taxes from the people, and rich people buy the best type of armor.
mm,
For individually focused society, where you, the soldier, supposed to arm yourself, sure, the plate armor is great. But in societies where usually your king, your lord, or your community has to arm you, the type of material that is easily mass produced is the best. So
mm.
small plates that can be used to like make different types of armor.
Now, I've noticed that we somehow managed to sneak in samurai armor at the very top of good. Like, it outclasses pretty much everything there. From the.
Because most of the samurai armor, maybe not one depicted here, contains every bit of and piece of every style of armor. It has mail, it has plate, it has lamellar, it has even scale. Depends. Like there is no samurai armor. There are many different samurai armors, but
Right,
best of the best samurai armor is close to European plate armor,
right.
but not as good because European plate armor covers more and is great, much better at made for a much better material. The metal is much higher quality and is more uh, proven in battle with many different cultures, unlike Japanese samurai armor.
Yeah. So it looks like we got our basic defenses. Now, given what you've told me, like in terms of like certain defenses with armors as it is when it comes to slashing and stabbing and crushing, Although crushing, I'm a little bit more confused with because I'm not exactly sure how those balances out. Maybe I'll ask you later. But I think in terms of general defense, are you happy with this tier list?
More or less. Some people would disagree, but again, get in the comments. Let's argue in the comments. I would say the best thing that you are making that I really like is combination of armor. So some like again, male's biggest weakness is piercing, but putting leather coat over it, thick leather coat, or having thick gambeson underneath, kinda balances it out. That's why I was trying to promote thousand nail coat armor because
Yeah.
it has like plates, it has thick leather, it has this, it has that. So combination armor that is great for individual purposes. Again, as I've said it, I try to give roles to different armored warriors because each type of armor is great for a specific purpose, specific job. You might be if like let's say you're a monster hunter, you're an adventurer, and you want to slay I don't know a giant snake or a flying creature or some sort of monster, maybe in a swamp, maybe in a desert, maybe in this type of areas. Having wearing full plate armor is not going to work. It's heavy, it's hot, it's difficult to move around. It takes a lot of time and energy to maintain, time and energy to put on, time and energy to put off. So, armor that is more protective could be like thick hides, thick leathers, and thick gambeson that is, again, great at stopping piercing, slashing, and like type of weapons your opponent has. So some armor might be great for city guard. Some armor might be great for a gladiator. Some each job, each role has its own demands and especially like weapons that are used against it. Armor and weapons always evolve side by side.
Mm.
We invent club. So let's start wearing first to protect against club. Now we invent spear. Now we need wooden shields to protect against spears. So weapon evolves, armor evolves. Weapon armor, weapon armor. So depends on what the opponent has. Again, samurai armor is designed to stop to stop archers, horseback archers, because that's why they have large shoulder like pauldrons.
Yeah, they're kind of
Well,
like big. They're kind
plate
of like
armor
big
is
rank
more designed to
shields.
stop maces and armor piercing weapons.
Mm.
So, the weakness of samurai armor is that their opponents didn't have like bludgeoning weapon, like kanabo or like big nailed clubs. Of course, they had them, but they're not armor piercing heavy, war hammers and
Or war
maces and
picks.
stuff like that.
Or war
They
picks.
are what?
War picks.
What things?
A war pick.
A war pick, yes, yes.
Yeah.
The Japanese word doesn't have it. Maybe a scythe or a kunai or something, but it's not armor piercing weapon. So
Yeah.
they involve this type of design. One or two things I would criticize, not criticize, I would say recommend.
Mm.
That's more of a nicer term. Few of the types of armor is missing. That would be interesting to put into your series because you have such variation
Right.
that I am personally actually impressed. But I would
I was bound to
maybe
miss
think
something.
about what?
I was bound to miss something.
Yes, yes. Of course, you put more effort than many actual armor designers in most of the games that I've seen. But we can go for full out and add more details. So one of the ideas I would like to recommend, for example, one of the more popular armors that you missed is linothorax, the glued armor. You know that's your typical Greek hoplite armor. You know the fish scales and the decorations, the type of armor, for example, um, why am like Alexander the Great and his soldiers would wear. that's like your the typical um, Greco-Roman period. Like Roman period, already chainmail and uh, different type of armor comes in, but that is like 5th century to 3rd century, maybe even before like 7th century.
What is it
That would be
called?
basically that's what
What is it called?
linothorax.
Lenothorax. Let me look that up real quick.
Basically, your typical Greek armor.
How do you spell that?
Lyno thorax. T or I think like that.
Lenothorax.
Basically, it's linen, glued linen, many layers of linen glued together. Have you found one?
Linen, and glue. Oh, okay.
Uh,
So it's
Thorax is the Greek for chest, like linothorax. So many layers of linen glued together.
okay. I see. Yes, I think I see something. Is it
These armors were great against bronze weapons, but when metal, like iron arrows and spearheads, yes, like you've seen the one with the arrow, right? That's the modern reconstruction historical testing where it's actually great at stopping uh, bronze and like stone arrows, but not as great as stopping steel arrows. Okay, some of them are decorated with scales, but the main principle is if you look the ones with like cloth and leather, yes, those ones. So
so?
it's basically
It's
thick
very.
layers of many layers of cloth glued together. It's actually pretty great against piercing and uh, more or less slashing, but not as great at, against bludgeoning. So
Would you
it's
say this would be greater or lesser than let's say like like leather sets?
this would be greater and usually was incorporated. Basically, leather was also incorporated with this armor, like layered on top of it. So to give it more of the leather's quality. So it's basically many layers of cloth glued together.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, that
So
I can see how that could
the
work. Yes, that's probably a lot better. It might even be superior to like some of that like the Chinese lacquered paper armor that you showed off.
yes, it's the same principle but with better material.
Ah, yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. And you
So
said
it
this.
slowly fell out of fashion about the time the steel came about, but especially for arrows that and but I think it's still great against, especially a lot of Roman would describe this type of armor as great against stabbing. So it's great against piercing and stabbing. So
Mm,
not as great against slashing, but some of them would wear it under their robes as like um, basically more modern uh, idea of Kevlar armor.
right. No, I can see
Like
how this would be
something
very
else that
beneficial and like
you can
Matt.
look into it. There
Yeah.
are many different designs. I personally like the idea of using glues to hold like cloth together, and it gives quite a good protection. And it's also stated to be great against claws and fangs too. Greek hunters used to wear it into fighting the bears and crazy animals. All right, that's on the side. Another type of armor I would recommend you try. It's would be wooden armor.
Wooden arm.
It's
Oh,
like typical.
like the silks or the like. How do you say? Like the Eastern Native Americans would use.
Yes. That would be wooden rope armor combination. Well, it's maybe not as protective as leather or some cloth, but it's still some cultures still use it. Like maybe not as like again
that
it's more of an idea I would recommend. I
it's
would think
probably not gonna.
linothorax is
Ah,
more
there you go. I'll
important
just put in
to
the
be
word real. Maybe that will show us
yes,
better examples.
yes, and also what else I think these are the like Linothorax would be the main historical one that you might have missed.
I know there's quite a few in terms of like that used certain animal materials. Like I know there was one. I think it was something from Indonesia. No, no, no. It was Thailand, I think, where certain natives would
You mean
have.
shark skin armor?
No, no. It was a tusk, boar tusk, and it was laden together
Oh,
like.
boar tusk or like the Iliad, the people fighting in Troy. All of them had boar tusks.
Yeah, there were helms, but they also made like some out of the rib bones or something like that. Where with the, I think it was like
Bone armor, yeah, like wood armor, bone armor, all of them were used in history, but it's not as protective. So
not as
they're
protective. Yeah,
not out of fashion. So it's more like uh, cheaper style of armor. So it's not important to put in, but I think it would be fun to interact. But
it would be.
Lunothorax would be like my number one recommendation to um, put in, but I would place it below, above leather and hide and cloth armor, but below metal armor.
Yes. So Lithorax, wooden high, like okay. Yeah, I think I could keep that in my memory, and if not, I can always look at the
All right.
video.
And would I? This is more of a personal recommendation. Maybe also include ring armor design. Maybe
Ooh, the only
this is
thing,
more of my own personal bias. Have you seen the ring armor that I made?
the only
Unfortunately,
ring
I only
armor
made.
that I am aware of is like the armor that you see in Diablo, like the old Diablo game. Although,
Unfortunately, my video doesn't come up, so not this type of like. Uh,
yeah, because this kind of looks
Wait,
closer to
let
that
me
bird
show you.
set.
More of a water ring armor, you know. All right, something close to ring armor made from bees,
Ah, I see. That's a
like closer to Japanese ring armor. Can I?
that's a very interesting design because it looks like it's a step above like a slight step above chainmail.
Yes, yes, that's what I wanted to show. Wait, give me a moment. I'll find. Is it a good picture? It's not great, but I made a washer ring armor using Japanese style of ring protection. But again, like which one should I?
Yeah,
Just
it would be this type
it's
of
my
shit.
own like pet creation, so I want to promote it as much as I can. Right? Is
Yeah,
this good
this is
enough?
the only
Okay.
representation of ring armor that we typically see, and it's like you see in like D&D, where it's like this almost leather colored rings.
All right. Can you see it? I've sent a
Oh, are you
picture.
sharing your screen?
No, I just sent a picture in the chat.
Okay,
Can you show it?
let me pull it up. Oh, all right. Let me see. There we go.
Yeah, something like this.
I can see why you would want this included.
Yeah, this is my person. This is Japanese ring making style,
mm,
male style with like interlocking rings that I've showed you. Like this is what is this up close?
mm.
Chain
It
holding bunch of plated rings together.
it looks like
So
it's
it's much more
conforming to your
protective
shape
than
quite well.
male armor. It's like basically in between uh, chain mail and plate mail.
It looks like it's how you say that is conforming to your shape quite well there. Or did you bend it to shape like that?
No, 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 no. It's basically uh, mail armor, but with thicker rings.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, I'm feeling it. So, Monorax, ring,
So that would be
wood.
my uh, personal self-insert idea that it's not really that 100% historical,
Nah, Diablo fans would appreciate that.
but I would really like to share my crazy invention, basically.
Hmm. Well, like it's a fantasy world. Like maybe it's something the elves came up with.
No, it must be invented by
Well, by the
dwarves.
dwarves. Well, no, they wouldn't use rings. They would use hexagons.
That's also actually Japanese kiko armor. It's made from hexagons, but they have holes in the center and they're sewn to cloth.
Hmm. Yeah.
All right, I've been nerding out far long enough.
Yeah.
I think it was a really interesting video with a lot of tangents and ramblings. And maybe, do you have anything else left to say?
No, not for now. I mean, I was going to, we were going to, but we didn't get through it quick enough because we enjoyed talking too much. Uh, we were going to, like, once we sorted this as it is, we were going to sort it again for what is best against cutting, what is best against stabbing, what is best against bludgeoning.
We could go through it. I don't think individually going through each one of them because like it's basically clustered into different ideas that something is S tier because it's great against all three of them: slashing, piercing, bludgeoning. Or what's the terms that you use?
Uh, well, like, no, that covers all of them. But like, what I described was like the status effects. What happens if you become critical to those things?
Hmm.
So laceration, fracture, perforation. These type of things. But
Uh,
the purpose of sorting these things is because obviously certain weapons will have certain strengths, right? And
sure,
so,
yeah.
like, if you come across an enemy and you know and if you know your stuff well enough, say you see someone with a man in chainmail come after you, you know that probably bludgeoning might help you, but it'd probably be a lot better to stab him. You know. So
Yes, going through it
basically,
with like a specialized
yeah,
dagger that is great to go
I
through the plates.
I was going to use it as a sort of rock paper scissors method, right? Where
Hmm.
obviously the much better armors, let's say the dragon proof, they will obviously protect far better against two things as opposed to just one, whereas poor armors they may only be protecting against one thing and the other two very very poorly. So it would be more a rock paper scissors kind of thing, like am I
Sure,
cutting
but
you? Yeah.
like when you get into like full plate armor, you're mostly, again, mostly protected from bludgeoning, piercing, slashing. You need, if you want to go through like full plate armor, you need like a war pick or a war hammer to bludgeon or pierce through the metal.
Yeah,
So,
you would need weapons of considerable force.
yes, yes.
Like
But for a like lower weapons, like it works, and it's like lower types of weapons, as I've stated before. Each type of armor has its own benefits, as you mentioned. Like maybe it's not rock paper scissors. It could work. It could work in theory.
well, thing is, I
For
was
example,
needing something
mail
that could
is
work
great
for.
against
Yeah,
slashing, right?
yeah,
So that would be like slashing weapon. Again, let's grab some mail again.
right.
Great, it's almost impervious, but ow, ow, ow. It's barely. Okay, if you're lucky and it hits a ring, maybe it stops it. But if it's bludgeoning, like if it's a hammer, like I wouldn't say it doesn't stop it at all. It still somewhat distributes the force, but nothing in comparison to what it would be if I again put a helmet on my head. No, the metal plate distributes the force and distributes the bludgeoning damage. So maybe I want to use, for example, leather. Maybe that's like you make something like Witcher style, where
Mm.
uh, chainmail is above, and if it goes through, leather is underneath to stop it. So that's the combination. Or the combination is plates and mail, where plates are covering the most parts, but mail gives it flexibility. So nothing is foolproof, but each of them gives some sort of a benefit. But again, combination armor is the best way to go.
Mm.
Uh, Stacking on top of skills on top of each other. But again,
Like
too thick of a sandwich
the
makes it
only
difficult to move and gets really tired.
yeah, the only reason in sorting it was so that that each, no matter what the case, would have different stats. So that way, players would
Hmm.
pick and choose what is best for them in particular, right? So like they're able,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly. Like we could go through individually, like on the top, from the top to the bottom, or from bottom to the top, and we could say like, what's the benefit? What's the like?
yeah.
We
But
could, we could,
like,
hmm,
of course, like I think that might be something I'd be able to figure out to some extent. Obviously, on some front. I mean, as it is, it might. I don't know. If it is something to go over, we can go over it later. It's not fully necessary. Obviously, overall defense, that number,
hmm.
that matters most. Because that's the amount of raw damage being subtracted from any damage being inflicted upon you.
I think each would be like a special effect, like uh, male, as I've said, like male type of armors that combine male has like specialized skill that is great against stopping slashing. But
Yeah.
like, how much can we go like individually? I don't like. For example, going from the bottom row, uh, I I don't think either one of them are great at stopping slashing, piercing, or bludgeoning. Just uh, basically better than just being naked. Half of them are almost naked. Like
Yeah. Pretty
some of them are
much.
just wearing the like loincloth with arm braces. I would choose that than be naked, but still like not much protection against slashing, bludgeoning, piercing. But each
When I drew them, I more or less expected them to be on the bottom, anyways.
yeah.
It's more like this type of thing. It's more for the daring do. The player that knows he can dodge all your attacks.
I guess, but like we gotta start somewhere.
Yeah,
When you're
obviously.
grinding to the top, you gotta start from the level one gladiator to get up to the like level 100 knight or like king's guard or something.
Yeah, even
So
Conan wore like a full bet. I think in the first movie, even he wore like a full bet set. Like when he was traveling to the desert,
I
he
don't.
wore like a
I
huge.
remember he was wearing armor at some point, but
Yeah,
I don't remember the style of it.
he wore many different styles.
Yeah, he did. He did. He was really like switching styles and vibes in the movie. That's the costume department was top tier in that movie.
Very much so. All right. Well, with all that being said, I think I should probably let you go to sleep.
I would be really grateful because it's 6 o'clock in the morning right
Oh
now,
shit.
and I'm trying my best to be awake. But like sleep is
Yeah.
one of those things armor cannot protect you from.
Nope. All right. Well, before the Sandman gets you, do you have
Mm.
anything going on? Any projects you want to let anybody know about?
Well, one of the things is that I've been really debating about this, struggling, but I think I finally am managing to open my own Etsy shop at least to
Ooh.
like I make so many things, but I just like make them and maybe like put them on sometimes and like play dress up. So why am I making so many things? Why am I gaining so many skills in this craft? Hopefully in the future, or maybe even before the video comes out, maybe later on, I would have my own Etsy shop and would be selling some of the armors to use the resources to make more and better projects. Because my hope was to keep all of my crafting in my country, but nobody in my country actually wants to pay money. Everyone likes it. Everyone, oh, we love history, we love
No,
culture, we love
I've had the
armor,
same
but
issue
paying
growing up.
money, eh,
Like, hey, these are great
what's that?
drawings. You have excellent artwork. What are you
Yeah,
gonna do them for? Oh, if you want a detailed piece that's like a 12 by 12 with lions and stuff, that's like $1,000 project. Oh, never mind.
yeah, paying money for art for your hard work? No, no, no. You must do it for the love of the game,
Yeah.
and the love of the game is doing something for me. Like I've gotten so many calls to be like, I want the full plate armor. Okay, this is what it costs. Okay, how much to rent it? This much. All right, you make it, and I'll rent it. All right, smart guy. All right, smart guy. So I
Oh,
don't
you're
know.
going to rent the
Hopefully,
armor? You're going to give it back?
so all right. So one of the things I really want to do is expand my crafting skills, expand my like. Now I'm trying to build my own smithery, like my blacksmith shop, but I need a lot of resources and a lot of material that is very expensive. So to do that, I will slowly start selling my crafts and projects. So hopefully, I can um, in the future switch to weapons. I made every type of armor that I like.
But you've made
Okay,
no
I haven't made
weapons.
full plate Gothic armor. That's too Western European for my taste. I made every type of Eastern European armor, and now I want to try making weapons. But to make
May I
weapons, I
suggest a
need
start?
forge. I need what?
May I suggest something that would be a level entry for a start?
Of course, of course.
War
Uh,
clubs.
orc what?
War clubs. In
Of course.
particularly carved war clubs. There are three.
That's
There are
one of the
three.
first things I'm making actually.
Yeah.
Or clubs and slings and the wooden spear. Like I want to go from Stone Age to the modern age, like slowly building up to it. So before to basically stretch out the time before I can actually learn how to use a forge, because I call myself a blacksmith, but I work in with cold metal. So cutting metal, making mail that doesn't need a forge. So I need to make a forge. I need to get a anvil. I need to get a lot of stuff that a proper worthy blacksmith needs to have. But all of them are very expensive. So to hopefully make money, I will start selling my products on the Etsy shop. It's still under construction, but hopefully it will be up in until the videos is out.
All right. Well, as far as what I'm doing, uh, because this is obviously a longer than 30-minute video, that's for damn sure. So we're probably going to be
Is it?
splitting it. But in case your audience may note, I'm halfway through recording a scripted video for like an expansion on orcs and whatnot. I've drawn the women as it is, and I am elaborating on actual evil with the 10th and final orc. I think I
Mm,
found a workaround to get past that evil race baggage that the orc conversation tends to float around. So hopefully,
yeah,
the 10th and final orc ORX, will hopefully fill that hole in a nice and satisfying way. On top of
I
that,
really enjoyed your orc video, and I made my own orc video in response.
oh, I saw
So
it.
yes, yes, it's a really interesting topic to think about, especially as someone who loves world building and going deeper and deeper into the characters and their mentality. Even like it's an evil race. Okay, what do they eat? What do they wear? How do they make like evil doesn't produce crops, so how do you manage your society? Those kind of details. Like one of the ignored parts of the orc the depiction. How are they reproducing? Who are the women? Who are the what is their lifestyle? Are they fighting with the men? Are they forced into the metaphysical kitchen, or are they like maybe their own elite society? For example, in my again, not to make it too much of a tangent, in my world building, I made orc women the main intellectual class of the society. Some orc
Mm.
women are fighters and warriors themselves, but they have their own matriarchal cult inside their cult where they share shamanic knowledge and hide it from the men. So they are the healers, they are the clerics, they are the ones who use magic, and magic is more associated with feminine. And
Mm.
the orc,
Very
if an
masculine.
orc shaman is a man, they kind of look at him funny, but not to his face, like
Yeah.
magic
As
is women's job, but I
Willem
still
Dafoe.
don't want it to be turned into a goblin or like a
Oh yeah.
worm.
As Willem Dafoe's character said in the movie Norseman, never learn the secrets of women.
Women's magic, that's a really powerful one.
Oh, they are magic. This one is, yeah. I have to be careful. But
All right, I love the chat.
I think
I
I've
love.
kept you long enough.
Hopefully, the viewers love the video because we went really nitty gritty into it, and I also it's already morning,
It's a new
and I
day.
really need to go to sleep.
And it's
All
gonna
right,
be a
the
night for
time zones
me.
are crazy. The like 8 hour, 9 hour difference. So,
Alright. Well, you have a very good one.
all right,
Everyone,
you as
Bordo,
well. Thank you, and thank you. Thanks for your viewers, and thank you to my viewers as well. Hopefully, they met each other, kissed, and reproduced. All
alright.
right, take care.
Take care.